knockout match of the weekend has came and went, and unfortunately, it is Thunderhead who ends up taking the road home here. Just F6 will be moving on. We got another knockout matchup, though, just around the corner, so the pressure's starting to mount a little bit on the back end of our day. Going to be a little bit more reversed tomorrow. We got Neighborhood versus Reversed card coming up with our final matchup of the day and our final knockout matchup of the day as well. My name's Dolson. Mifflin's with me one final time to break down some of what we've seen so far. It's tough, Miff. You know, we love these tournaments, the possibility of making it into the SPL. Always hard, you know, for us to talk about the teams that end up getting knocked out. I mean, the emotions start to run a little bit higher in matchups like this.
Speak for yourself.
Okay. It's always a little bit harder for me to send teams home.
You're so nice, man. You're much nice. I feel like intrinsically a part of competition that I really enjoy is seeing somebody else, making somebody else lose was the main reason I competed, I think. It was never about me winning when I was playing.
Really?
I think so. Legitimately. And you know what? We're going to have some competitors to talk to later on today. I want you to ask them that question as well. See if maybe it's a commonality.
All right, how do you want me to word it? I want to make sure I get it right in the interview.
Yeah, why do you play?
Do you care more about winning or making someone else lose?
That's
Is that a
good.
fair way
That's
of wording
good.
the question?
I like that.
Okay, I'm going to write it down on my sheet. Let's take a look at what we've seen so far here today. Oni Homies and Winter Dogs both taking the 2-0 win in the non-knockout matches of our day. And then Just F6 will send Thunderhead home in our first knockout match of the day. And then, of course, that brings us to our fourth and final game, and that is Thunderhead, the Neighborhood going up against Reverse Card. We're starting to fill out this bracket a little bit further. Unfortunately, in the bottom part of that bracket, we see the first team a little bit, or not a little bit, literally grayed out, and that's Thunderhead after a hard-fought battle up against Just F6. But now we've got two more teams, Miff, that are trying to stave off defeat or beat their opponents, whichever their motivation might be.
We'll find out.
We'll find out here shortly, I assume. The Neighborhood up against Reverse Card. And, you know, I think back to the Neighborhood's matchup yesterday, and it was sort of hard to get a good grasp on this team because it was a 3-game set, and then that middle game, you know, Neighborhood just plays out of their mind. So it's like that potential for this team to go crazy is absolutely there. I know yesterday Dame was in mid, and I believe Jumpa was in the jungle. Been told that those two will be swapping today.
Is that true?
That's what we've been told.
Jumpa was like 15-2, man.
Dame will be in the jungle, and Jumpa will be in mid. Does that change your thoughts on the team?
A little bit. I know for a fact that Jumpa is like a world-class jungler at times. I mean, he dominated me on the world stage, right? I've never seen Dame play jungle at the highest level. I'm certain that he is very capable, considering that there is a lot of carryover skill just generally in Smite. But I feel like you kind of want to feed the hot hand, right? The one game you win is the one where Jumpa drops like a 15-2 and like 7-22, like 80% affected kills.
Was that the NEM game?
That was the NEM game.
Yeah.
And speaking to it, I mean, Jumpa's best god is NEM, so maybe if that gets banned out, we're a little bit concerned about the transition from there. But I don't know. If that's your silver lining, I feel like you kind of want to keep it, right?
Well, Miff, here's the good news. Aside from whatever question you want me to ask,
yeah,
that's something I'll probably ask about. Maybe we'll get
mine's probably better.
Right,
they're just going to go in depth on mine.
Right, your question's probably a little bit more important than mine. You know, this was a team that yesterday, despite the 2-1 loss, showed you know, moments of brightness, even in the Game 1 loss and in the Game 3 loss. I think Vonson put together a pretty solid performance in those matchups yesterday. And then you're right, Miff, a lot of the conversations have been around Jumpa, been around Dame, how those two, because even before this now role swap, there were some changes to this team's roster coming into this weekend. Seems like the team, though, had a pretty solid head on their shoulders and a good mindset approaching this weekend. And so in a high-pressure matchup, you know, I think this is where we'll really see the style of team that these guys are and the way that they want to play the game in a knockout match.
Yeah, I think mental fortitude is certainly something you have to talk about in a loser's bracket situation. How well are these guys adapting to the added pressure? Of course, if you lose this one, you go home, right? You lose your odds at ending up in the SPL. But having talked to these guys, having interacted with them, seeing them just hanging out after their loss, seemed like their mentals are intact. If anything, they were smiling, man. It blew my mind how happy they seemed. So I got to think that they're either unconcerned with their odds going forward, they've got pretty good chances in the loser bracket run, or these guys just have untouchable mentals. Either way, incredibly strong assets.
The good news is Miff and I both have some questions we want answered, and we will get them answered here right now. Mineral joins me from the neighborhood. Mineral, good to have you standing by here. Looking forward to the matchup here today. Let's start off with Mifflin's question.
Yeah.
Do you play more to win for yourself or more to make someone else lose?
Probably make someone else lose.
No kidding.
Dude, I'm telling you, bro.
All right. I'm the odd man out here on this one. I'll ask my question now. Dame and Jumpa swapping roles going into this game. What went into that decision?
Well, leading into this, we were playing with Dame Jungle, and a lot of our communication was with Dame and Vonnie, and we weren't really having that communication with Frank, even though Frank really did pop off in the second game. It just Dame was more leading in the jungle, so we think that might help us leading
Got
in.
it. More communication-based change then. Looking back at the matchup yesterday, is that the takeaway then? Do you think communication was really what stood out to adapt and change going into
I think
these games?
it's one thing, but there's also other factors like us not really having a grasp of the meta.
Right.
So I think after watching a couple of games and reflecting overall, we definitely are more confident.
Well, talk to me about the duo lane meta just a little bit. Do you feel like it's the style of meta that now that you've looked back on it a little bit, you feel like you're a little bit more comfortable in going into this matchup?
Yeah, I am. I think yesterday I kind of trolled in what I picked, in the sense of not really picking into the meta specifically.
Right.
So I think now that I have a better grasp, it should be an easier time.
Sure, understood. Looking forward to see you guys play today. I'll let you get back and get ready.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mineral. And so, Miff, I can't believe we got someone on. All right. We're one for
It
one.
really is weird, right?
We're 1 for 1. We'll see what what our next interview is. We're talking to Valo. We're going to ask the same question. All right, I'm the odd man out here on this one. We're playing to make other people lose. I just want to have fun.
You make it sound like we're so mean. Look,
You guys are horrible.
Look,
Just kidding.
I think there's a definite curve as you get better and better at doing something where winning
so I'm not good
becomes-
at anything.
No, I'm sure you could. You played sports competitively in school. There comes a point when you are seated high that you're thinking, okay, I'm expecting to win. That becomes the expectation. So it's more so it hurts to lose than it feels good to win. I think that's where a lot of these competitors find themselves, and that's why it kind of shifts your attention.
So what you want is to put the hurt of losing on someone else. All right. You know, maybe this is just not.
It's them or me, right?
Fair enough. And I'm happy to be the one who stands alone here on this one. I pray to God Valo has my back on this one. I can't be alone. Let's talk about reverse card, though, Miff. A team that had a similar path yesterday into our lower bracket here. A team that showed signs of being able to compete in their game, and really moments where you're thinking, all right, this set might get pulled back, but ultimately down the stretch fall just a bit short of reaching their goal. And at least the first set, an opportunity here against the neighborhood to continue their run down in the lower bracket. This is Slash Valo by Monster Bomber and Conviction. What did you see from this team yesterday, Miff, and what do you want to see? Who do you want to see step up in order to have a good impact today?
I was impressed from what I saw from Reverse Card. I felt like this is a team that is very much untested. It's a squad that had some roster shakeups coming into this week, and despite all that, they performed very well on day of. Specifically, Monster Bomber was one of the standouts. It's a guy that a lot of people should be familiar with, maybe a little bit more name recognition from him. I thought that his performance was, in particular, very strong. Around that Yamoja play, consistently finding great ultimates and the like. So I think there is a good deal of parity between these two teams in that they're very much newer squads. They're squads that have been having turbulent trips here to the LAN as well, and they've got a lot to prove in the losers bracket. The only thing I would want to say that this team in particular, Reverse Card, would likely need to improve on is the target selection in some of these team fights. It feels like sometimes they're just kind of split decision. Some people are on one target, some people are on another, and then both get away.
Well, Miff, we've had a bunch of 2-0s today, but this again, you know, now we see the play styles of both the neighborhood yesterday, Reverse Card yesterday, the path through both of those first round matchups could be a 3-game set to round out the day here. Knockout, fourth and final set of the day, and a knockout game. We got one more interview. Valo's standing by with me for the pregame interview. First and foremost, thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, no
I'm
problem.
going to ask you the same question that we just asked Mineral, and Mifflin has already answered. Are you playing more to win for yourself or more to make your opponents lose?
I'm playing more to win for my team.
Thank
I think
you.
It's more of a team
Thank you.
game.
Now we got to see which team wins.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So you're playing more for the team win. I'm feeling a little bit more vindicated right now. Talk to me about the sets yesterday. You guys go back, you review it a little bit. Do you feel like you have a good understanding of where things went wrong and what you want to change going into today?
Yeah, I think of a lot of it boiled down to communication mistakes. We thought we had a pretty strong performance as a group game one, and then game two. After losing that way, game one, game two was a little bit harder.
Right.
But we're just looking to build on our communication and work forward to win this set.
Now, it's been a while since we've seen, competitive Smite from Season 8 here into Season 9. Obviously, getting a grasp on the meta. Do you feel like, even just looking back on yesterday, you've gotten a better grasp on your role and what to expect in picks and bans?
Oh, yeah, completely. Looking back on our performance and definitely how everybody else has been playing, we're getting a better understanding on how we're supposed to play the map in the new season.
Well, excited to see a little bit more of it. Thanks for your time and best of luck.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Miff. I'm feeling good. We are split on our. We are split. Half of us are winning for us.
Might makes right in this situation, so whoever wins, we can agree, has the better philosophical stance.
Well, you and I have to find some way to compete to prove it to ourselves outside of what happens here in Smite game. But I think a big takeaway, really, from both of those interviews, is that both players, whether it was Mineral or Valo, talk about the ability to take a step back. And I think communication issues is what really both interviews mentioned, is that we had some blurring of the lines, things like that, and the team fight, shot calling. And so those things getting ironed out will always benefit your team in the long run. But, that's not an easy fix immediately, Miff. That's sort of, maybe a chemistry-based thing one way or another. So I think that'll be interesting to follow along with. I think picks and bans will be pretty intriguing between these two teams as well. Neither of these two teams shied away from some of the more unique picks. We saw some Olar unprioritized on one side. The Nemesis, of course, kind of as a counter to a Cthulhu. Feels like a lot of the teams here this weekend, Miff, have kind of established their own unique meta and unique play style, and we're just kind of living in their world as picks and bans go on.
Yeah, it's the individual players' personalities that's coming through. Mineral locked Olarun because he likes Olarun. Jumpa locks in Nemesis because that's been one of his signature picks all the way back since the console days. But I think that Mineral, again, brought up a good point during that interview. He learned the meta. He realized that the picks that he was taking aren't exactly versatile enough to get him the dub, so he's going to shift that up himself, which is a two-edged sword. One, you're probably picking something that is objectively stronger, and two, that means that the last set that they played has got some skewed data for this other team. So the neighborhood having different shift-ups in the role as well as their picks is going to make some of the homework that reverse card did themselves maybe a little bit less applicable to this upcoming set. But the same can be said at reverse card. It sounds like they're going to make some pretty significant shift-ups as well.
I think it'll be interesting with neighborhood, because we talk about the communication issues and how these teams want to address that. And the neighborhood are addressing it by swapping Dame and Jumpa. And so, you talked about how Jumpa looks fantastic on that Nem. We're going to see a totally maybe different God pool in the mid lane prioritized by the neighborhood, And so if reverse card go back and watch the neighborhood set or talk about what the neighborhood draft strategy was, for a handful of the picks, whether it's solo, support, or ADC, you might have a good idea. But changing of roles could throw off the opposing team as well. Suddenly you got two roles where you don't really know the play style of either of the players.
Yeah, and I think that both teams bringing up communications in the neighborhood, again, specifically, he gave us a little bit more data in that interview, said that Vonson was who, or not Vonson, it was Dame was who they were practicing with in the jungle before coming to this event, and that was their communication center for the team. Remember earlier today on the desk I said, that's got to be something you're always prepared to play around. Your communication center is the one thing that is not changeable. If it's one person who's operating as primary shot caller or primary target caller in these team fights and they get quiet or they have to shift their attention, that makes it so hard to perform on day of. So I think that we could very well be looking at a very different version of the neighborhood.
And if you and I are going to have a little bit more time to theory craft, everyone at home, you got a quick second to run, go grab some snacks before our fourth and final set of the day. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, picks and bans for game one kicking off. for sticking around, everybody. Moments away from getting into P's and B's for game number 1. And the anticipation starting to build now between these two teams. Remember, this is a knockout game. And so the mentality for a lot of the teams is let's just show up, let's have some fun, let's see what we can get done. And unfortunately for one of the two teams, their road will end at the end of this best-of-3 set. Let's delay no further. P's and B's for game number 1. And Miff, you and I raised some questions about where priorities lie. Do we think that reverse card are going to have a good read on what suddenly the jungle picks start to look like for the neighborhood, what the mid lane picks start to look like? And those answers, or those questions, will be answered here in just a few moments. Persephone, first one taken away. And Miff, we have seen Persephone. Let me look at top. I was going to say maybe the most highly prioritized mid laner. Looks like just behind Persephone is Thoth. As far as bans go, 43% banned on both of them. Is Persephone just good enough across the board that we're taking her away in every game?
I think that some of these players are Persephone specialists. It's not so much that this god is just that strong in current season. I think that this is a season that's really going to favor mages that are much better at applying poke consistently to things like Thoth, things like Agni. But how these sets have been going have been highly contentious, level 5, like mid 3v3 engagements that completely open up the game. The first rotation of red buff, you're starting to look and rotate towards those. And in those situations, Persephone's Grasping Death is incredibly potent. Just these enclosed jungle corridors, locking down large portions of the team. So I guess it makes sense to me that the neighborhood are going to go ahead and ban this one out, especially considering against reverse card, it is a 100% ban.
I was going to say, against reverse card, everyone's banning out this Persephone. So maybe for Vi in the mid lane, that's just not something anyone has wanted to deal with. And with priority comes Amaterasu this weekend. Ama once again picked up here. And that Miff we talk about as one of the building blocks to these great objective shred compositions. Obviously great team fighting as well through that. But the shred comps have Amaterasu more times than not as one of the cornerstones of making a great composition. On the flip side, we're going to look to reverse card. And in the highlights, we saw Valo in the jungle playing this Gilgamesh a couple of times yesterday, and there is already aggression on board for the reverse card draft.
Yeah, really good front line already from reverse card. Fenrir likely slated for the support role, and I think that Fenrir really does fit this new age version of support in that what do supports do for the most part? It's just walking in. Oh, hey, it's Jithin's.
It's his birthday, I heard.
Is it actually?
Yeah, I've heard it's Jithin's
like for real this time.
He's covering up his screens. Yeah, that's where the magic happens back in their room. No, it's not Jithin's actual birthday. If we tell it to him every day, eventually it will be. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Miff, but I did start laughing. Tara picked here by the neighborhood.
Yep.
And the reason this is funny is because their support, Vonson, tweeted out yesterday
that he's going to play
or maybe it was today, and I'll just read the tweets now. Billy hooked us up here. This is from Vonnie's Twitter account, @VonnieBalboa. Said, heard a story once about Kobe and how he'd tell defenders what move he was going to do and then would still just score with it. So in honor of that, I'm going to tweet out what gods I'm playing before every set. And then in a separate tweet, tweeted Fenrir, Yamoja, Terra, Guan. And so Vonnie's calling us shots here. Tweets out that he's playing Terra, makes it known to the world, and Terra gets locked in. Paired with a Zeus, this is something we've seen prioritized once or twice here this weekend. The makings of a pretty good team fight here, Miff, between Terra, Ama, and Zeus.
Yeah, good counter engage as well. Terra's Earthen Fury is very good into the Winds of Shamash. It's going to instantly proc that heal every single time. Something that you're going to have to further work through to shut down the back line of the neighborhood. I'm curious to see which version of Zeus we get. I know the book build or the library build isn't exactly very popular right now, but I still think that Zeus is going to be able to itemize towards that if he so chooses. The double penetration build, also an option. The early game damage of Zeus, nothing to be scoffed at. But my only concern now is how consistent the engage is going to be for reverse card. Because the beads burning potential is there, but only slightly. Fenrir's Ragnarok going to be a consistent beads burner. Maybe you're able to take one target off their beads with Gilgamesh's drop kick. Osiris Tether going to be able to just be immuned out by mobility for the most part. And Hou-Yi similarly single target. Generally, when I see a Fenrir, I look towards the rest of the draft and say, is there somebody on this team that can consistently apply AoE CC to try and create scenarios where this Fenrir can find value from Ragnarok so he doesn't have to do it all himself. And right now, they're teetering on the edge of it. Maybe a little bit more. This last pick could really put him over the edge and make the neighborhood think twice about their selections and whether or not there's CC immunity on their draft. Because as of now, Terra and Zeus, that's free Ragnarok.
Right, it's going to have to be something for reverse card if you're looking for a little bit more of that, something in the mid lane. Neighborhood still have the opportunity to add some of that themselves. What we're assuming to be out in the jungle could be ADC as well. If you're in the neighborhood and you want some AoE CC, you'd love that Cupid, but gets banned out by reverse card. And so Thoth, one of the other, actually the other highest banned mid laner just across the board. Both Persephone and Thoth banned out 43% of the time respectively. And we've seen an increase of Agni here this weekend, Miff, of course for individual players just by nature of the pick.
Uh-oh.
But
No
feels
way.
like it's starting to become a little bit more viable. The Cernunnos rather, is one that maybe is less intriguing now that we've seen a pick or two. The Ao Kuang, however, would raise some eyebrows.
Okay, all right.
And eyebrows are raised. Ao Kuang jungle and a knockout game 1 picked here for the neighborhood.
Look, I've gotten into extensive conversations on behalf of Ao Kuang. I get into debates with some of these SPL junglers because I think this god has a lot of untapped potential. The damage output, pretty decent. Threat on beads, incredibly high. Consistent damage towards objectives as well. His objective shred might be, bar none, some of the best you can get out of a jungler, just removing Gold Fury's Pyromancers very quickly. But it's a double-edged sword in that you are a largely immobile magical assassin that is pretty easy to shut down, and from behind, Ao Kuang is very, very hard to catch back up with. And now, looking at the rest of the draft from the neighborhood, they've got good tools to kind of create space for this Ao Kuang, but there are other targets that are similarly going to get dove. Zeus has to protect himself. Ao Kuang's not going to be grouped up with him fighting in the backline.
my
Cern
child!
doesn't really have the best self-peel tools either, so this is going to be a very high execution composition from the neighborhood just because they've gone towards this Ao Kuang.
Miff, are you surprised that Tiamat has a single game played and it's a loss? I'm not emphasizing the loss. I'm more the fact that Tiamat's been played once this entire week.
I think that some of these other mages just kind of outshine Tiamat nowadays, right? I mean, I really am an Agni Thoth truther right now. The damage output, the builds really do favor that style of play. You could still pick the Tiamats of the world. She still synergizes relatively well with some of these new glyphs, and she can still get involved very easily, but she's just not as consistent as some of these other picks.
So Tiamat, maybe the pick throughout all of last year in Season 8, has not been quite as prioritized so far this week. There were some questions that needed answering, Miff, as far as setup, lockdown, peel, things like that. Let's start with reverse card here. Fenrir, Gilg, Osiris as those main initiators. Of course, Hou-Yi and Tiamat have some single instances in their kits as well. The overall team fight of reverse card, does it give you some confidence?
It does. The space control that Gilgamesh is going to afford you with Winds of Shamash, the dive potential, certainly something that makes reverse card's composition very scary, especially because I highlighted just a little bit earlier, Zeus and Ao Kuang going to be pretty easy targets to find in some of these fights. Fenrir, Osiris, Gilgamesh going to be acting as that steel just arrowhead for their team. Yep. Hou-Yi is a little bit safer than Cern, I'd say, just by nature of having that standard leap in his kit as well. And Tiamat getting some of that damage mitigation come late game means that if it's going to be a battle of the dive between these two compositions, I think I would favor reverse card.
I will say, Miff, something that we haven't talked about much this weekend is our team comps built around like overwhelming need for anti-heal, right? I mean, we saw towards the end of Season 8, like, just massive healing compositions, and you had to talk about anti-heal. We're not building anti-heal. That hasn't been a theme throughout the course of this week so far. Between a Terra and an Ama, plus any healing baked into kits or itemization from the others on the neighborhood, do you think that reverse card have the ability and the need to buy some anti-heal in Game 1?
I don't know if it's a need, whether or not more so it's just a want. If you go towards the Ankh, you're going to be able to apply it pretty consistently in these team fights. Earthen Fury is not a choosy ability. It's a large circular AoE heal around Terra. Apply that Ankh, you mitigate a lot of it, and deal more damage.
Are we playing to win or playing to make the other team lose? That's the question. Game 1, knockout. Let's go.
And hopefully we'll get that question answered here in Game 1, Game 2, and maybe even Game number 3. Neighborhood versus reverse card, though, for our final set of day number 2. It's J-Mac, Gore, and Doug to bring you all the action one more time. And looking back at it, we see Zeus yet again starting to rise up again in that popularity for himself. We saw it really towards like the latter half of Phase 3, in towards Worlds he had some kind of back and forth, but now we're seeing him here And I think important to talk about a distinct lack of Tiamat.
Yeah, someone that has been one of the strongest mid laners all of last year, and she's played one game so far this week.
Just
yeah,
one.
I think it's very much like what Mifflin had said on the desk, which is that she's still really good. Her kit's real solid, but when you're looking at the builds right now and when the other gods are coming online, it's a lot faster than what you typically expect out of a Tiamat. I'm still going to err on the side of caution, right? Because I think Vi with a Tiamat can do a lot of work. But we'll have to keep our eyes specifically on the Zeus, maybe a little bit on Dame as well in the jungle, because I want to see how Jumpa is going to make this transition. Mifflin had mentioned it, and again, the desk talked about it, but like, he was just playing jungle yesterday. He's known for jungle. Dame was listed as the jungler for this roster initially, though, before they had all of their shakeups. So that is something that I think is putting him in the role that they had wanted him in, and maybe a little more comfortable to make sure that these swaps are better for the neighborhood. Plus having some interesting matchups all around for gods. I don't know. It's just all around an interesting game, and we're only a minute in.
And I think another thing that Mifflin kind of pointed out is we don't really have much, if any, info as far as Jumpa mid is concerned here.
Yeah.
So grabbing Zeus of all gods, one of the most polarizing of the mid laners as far as he is basically all damage, no defense. Everybody is going to want to dive this god and kill this god, but who cares about the mid lane right now? It's all about this duo action. Monster Bomber goes in aggressive against Mineral, but he'll dive in the walls to hold him out, but the Brutalize will not be stopped yet. Instead, it's Valo blinking into the backline to strike first blood into the hearts of the neighborhood. Reverse card on the board early. Vonson with a quick beads to try and get out, but the beads will make sure that he gets away, and only one goes to reverse card.
I think impressive from Vonson to stay alive there. Unfortunate that he wasn't able to hit her around. There was a point where Monster Bomber was like virtually one hit from dead. But you're a level 2 support, and honestly, level 2 supports and one guy being a hit from dead don't typically go hand in hand as well as you would like, especially when that guy's a Fenrir and he has a lot more mobility. And also the jungler's already over here. Yeah, no, it's just good to stay alive there. Unfortunate that you lose Mineral. And that's a great way to start off. I mean, if you're Monster Bomber and Conviction, that's how you want your lane to go, right? You get this Huyi ahead. He's already going to be pretty solid in terms of boxing, but you also get this Fenrir into a position where he can start getting more aggressive. He can start taking these fights and kind of dictating things a lot quicker. And when you have an assassin support, that's half of what you want to do.
Well, Delny will secure his blue buff. A nice little play by him to get that refraction shield out. Make sure that he's able to secure his buff. Keep that one alive and deny that experience more than anything from Slash, who's already been taking a nice advantage in that solo lane. You can see the downsides of the Amaterasu early as she doesn't box very well, especially against other auto attack gods and gods that can easily poke her down like this Osiris can. Still, even despite having the first blood go the way of reverse card, it is Vonson and Mineral still playing a little bit more proactively in this dual lane. They're able to steal away that Harpy and able to kind of mitigate some of this first blood bounty. It's about 700, 600 gold back and forth. The reverse card having to leave early.
Realistically, I think this is going to be interesting because watching that back and forth, right, you can see where it's really affecting. A level 5 for the Ao Kuang already, level 5 over there in mid instead on the other side. Small little experience that really can make a huge difference here. I don't know if level 5 for this Ao Kuang is going to be as big of an impact as it would be for pretty much any other jungler. I mean, you get the execute online. If you don't hit the execute, it's still a good knockup, but you're beside this Zeus, unless you're really just setting him up for more damage. I don't know if there's much reason to burn through it now, but I will say benefits. There's a lot of tanky people on the other side to burn through. That execute's going to come in handy late game.
Well, Vi's already used their leap, so they're in that quadrupedal stance for the time being. Vonson just used the last of his dashes to continue forward, and that mid camp is going to go the way of reverse cards, so they'll make sure to take that one out. But now that the Obelisk is here, there's the benefit. That mid camp is right back up, and it can easily go the way of the neighborhood unless Val has something to say about it. Jumpa does not get to make a decision in this game. He drops the Lightning Storm, he goes down, but Dame finally able to get a kill for himself, and that execute comes up perfectly in time to keep him alive and put a kill up on the board for the neighborhood.
Lets him fall back, should be able to clear up and stay healthy throughout all of this. But getting a kill on the board might be the most important thing, especially seeing how easy it is to kill off Zeus. And that's why we talked about it. Roll back to the book builds and listen to the conversations there. Hey, you've got 12 minutes until Zeus gets a Book of the Dead, until he has that massive shield that can come online. And that means you've got 12 minutes where he's just Zeus, and you can kill him all you want. And most of the time, we saw teams get away with playing him relatively safe for 12 minutes or so. Sometimes they'd even feed for 12 minutes. Then they'd hit that mark and they'd have the shield and they'd be fine. You don't have that luxury now. Now, your luxury is going to be, when can you kill them faster than they kill you? And unfortunately, that's still going to take a little bit of time, a couple of items, before he's hitting as hard as he possibly can. And again, when you look at it, you've got Valo, you've got Vi, you've got Slash, and even Monster Bomber after a couple of items. They're all going to be tanky enough that he's not going to be able to outright kill them on his own. Zeus does a lot of damage, but he's definitely going to need to rely on that pin, the flat pin, and then eventually maybe even some percent pin to make sure he can get through them and deal the amount of damage we've gotten used to seeing.
Well, it is going to be a Spear of Desolation for both mid laners out here. Eye of the Jungle on one side for Jumpa. We've seen what kind of crazy upgrades you can go into there, whether you go Protector or Seer. And on the other side, stands a time for a little bit of extra CDR as far as Vi is concerned. So already sitting at 20% in that mid lane, going to be able to spam quite a bit of abilities and have some decent mana sustain over anything else. 5 minutes in, it was a little loud earlier on as far as the action is concerned, but now it's started to quiet down. As I say that, I thought maybe we were going to see a little bit of action between Conviction and Mineral. But instead, it will just be Conviction leaping towards him, and Monster Bomber going with the classic, stealing of the flowers, and that will activate the totem for reverse card. And we've been seeing kind of this rough time frame of when obelisks are being activated. Usually kind of between that 5.5 to 6.5 minutes, it's kind of been that ideal point.
Yeah, and being able to pick it up. Again, it feels like it's something that is going to be... Like, it could be grand scheme. Actually, Vonson might be in a little bit of trouble. No, he's Terra, so he'll be fine. That's actually a pretty, well, I want to say sizable. It's just the Tiamat ult, but still. That's obnoxious to have to deal with as you watch him fight the Minotaur.
The poor support.
Takes so long.
I know that exact feeling. You get slammed by that bull. It slows you down for like some crazy absurd amount of slow, and then you're just stuck sitting there having this thing chase you for like 20 seconds. Slash is having two people chase him. That'll be the Lord of the Afterlife and Delny. That's the signal for him to go in. Dazzling offensive gets the beads out of Slash, but a little more damage is all that's needed for the execute out of Dame. Second kill on the board for the neighborhood. Second kill on the board for Dame, and second that comes from that execute.
And I think keep watching that because, you know, the first two executes so far this game have really been, they probably could have died in the moment and like you didn't need the execute, but it's still helpful, right? I actually think the first one was like teetering on the edge of like necessary versus, you know, letting the kill slip away kind of deal. But later on, again, with two warriors, an assassin that's going to be building tanky, and the way that Tiamat just is, that's going to be one of the most helpful abilities.
It's going to be a miss on the jump from Monster Bomber.
Oh, wow.
But Jumpa will output more than enough damage to put Vi and Monster Bomber all the way back. They're not going to want to continue fighting inside that Lightning Storm and inside that ultimate out of Vonson, making sure to apply that extra little bit of damage. So mid laner will live, but it does end up costing Jumpa his beats.
Yeah, John, and the ult, right? I mean, realistically, that's going to be a full minute and a half that you have to wait for the Lightning Storm, so that's an easy time to jump in and try to find a kill. But with the beads gone for even longer than that, Fenrir should have a field day, right? I mean, that is pretty much exactly what you want. Hey, here's this god who can't really move that quickly, that now has no CC immunity available, so you can just scoop him up in your mouth. Watch Monster Bomber's Diamond. Once that ult is back up, yeah, he's going to be in there, and he should be chomping on Jumper as much as possible. Vonson might be able to help save, not necessarily in like a CC way, but more in terms of the can we peel for him.
Ooh, just a little shy of getting the stun there is Valo, but the rest of the follow-up is more than enough. Vi with that Primordial Onslaught, able to take down Jumpa, and a leap in place will force Dame to use that water illusion to get himself out of dodge. Vonson once again having to stare down the Minotaur as it walks through the Titan, or as walks through the tower, I'm sorry. And Valo with a nice little drop kick there. Thought for a moment that it could have gone south, but he's got a lot of backup there to make sure it goes down.
You know, shout outs to Reverse Card for doing the thing I said, but way faster than I thought it was going to happen. I was like, yeah, this is a good time to sit on Zeus. I thought we were going to be sitting here for another minute before they finally enacted it. Monster Bomber still hasn't gotten his ult back yet, but with 2 deaths already sitting on the Zeus, beads down for another 70 seconds, I'm expecting in the next, like, 30 seconds to a minute, the engage to be there. There is going to be a Lightning Storm on the other side. You are going to end up taking some damage in the process, but with the correct follow-up and the way that Valo and Vi have been playing behind you, I think Reverse Card are going to be able to bully this easily.
Well, it's going to take less than 30 seconds to a minute. It's going to be right here, right now. Jumpa picked up, drop kicked against the wall, and sent right back to the fountain. You do not get to have fun today in mid lane, Zeus, says Reverse Card. as Valo and Monster Bomber once again team up to not only bully, but just absolutely obliterate the mid lane.
Yeah, how many kills onto a mid laner who's playing Zeus does it take before it qualifies as cyberbullying?
I think we're getting close to that point.
like we're not there yet, but I can feel that it's starting.
He can just go to another lane.
Yeah, you just leave mid.
Just leave mid.
You know,
Go
do
somewhere
the
else.
good old swap. Send Mineral mid and let him deal with it for a little while and see how well you can box a Hou-Yi.
Yeah, I don't know if that one's going to work either. He's also 3 levels down to the Hou-Yi. That's probably the worst thing you can go. Well, he is getting some physical defense right now, so at least he's helping himself out a little bit. Probably that Celestial Legion helm. That's become a very popular item this week.
Yeah, and honestly, it is just because it falls into this perfect category where like you're not it's cost efficient. You're going to be able to get a lot of good stats for it. And you're not sacrificing as much. I mean, yes, you are going to fall behind, I think, in terms of height, but you're Zeus. Like, you output damage like it's nothing. It's not going to be the end of the world to have to delay one more item in terms of that. So I like this. Plus, like you said, it's almost necessary at this point. Valo and Monster Bomber have just been making your life a living hell. And you need to get out of there.
You might need to get out of here Mineral, because you got 3 people staring you down. Valo is here. The blink not up, so it'll just be a drop kick. That is off the mark. A quick dash by Mineral, make sure that he gets back to the safety of the tier 1. But Valo and Monster Bomber have been walking around like a pair of inseparable twins here. Everywhere that one of them goes, the other is shortly to follow right after. It's been now 2 purple buff invades in a row to make sure that Mineral does not get not just that farm, but also just making sure that he has to sit down and lose out on some of that pressure in duo lane. But all that pressure towards duo sets up for a Pyromancer to go the way of the neighborhood. All the while, though, Monster Bomber does at least start stripping away some of these flowers from that obelisk.
Yo, shout out to Vonson for securing the red buff. I think the obelisk getting absolutely stripped away, it was a very, very large rotation from reverse guard. You had called that out. I think if they get that red buff on top of it, maybe comes out as like neutral losing the Pyromancer just because of how important this scepter can be in the right hands and on the right person.
Crazy
but
good.
Ultimately, it's going to be still a little bit better for Neighborhood, at least in terms of taking away some of that lead and trying to alleviate some pressure. And now they might even be able to pay back in kind. They're going in not just for the steal, but look at this grouping. This could be a big fight.
You're not getting my red buff. We're taking your flowers,
and
we're taking your support's life. Monster Bomber does not get to play the last 5 or so seconds of Smite. A nice drop kick there by Valo. Dame actually disengages, but the rest of the team is going in. Delny has rotated from the solo lane, and he'll make sure that Valo goes down and pays the iron price. Slash and Vi jumping in. Delny very low, nowhere to go, and sent back to the fountain. Vi credited for the hit and jump up. Will drop the lightning storm, but it's not enough damage to take out Slash. But Dame coming back in the fight is enough to take out Vi.
I would love to be able to watch what Dame just did from his perspective, because Dame, that was brilliant. There's so many things to talk about in that fight, but Dame blinked in front of Vi to body block Vi getting the safety. Vi is so close to getting to a tower there, and Dame cuts off the path and has now set themselves up for a very, very lucrative camp steal there and a speed buff. So not only do you get away some experience, but Valo's going to be hurting. I was actually curious about it because Dame used their ult to disengage after they got that first kill. And I saw what Vi could do and how low they were. I thought they were going to go in, but instead, they delayed it just a second. And again, just that blink forward, when you watch the re-engage here, when they go to cut off this path, they use their own dash. There's the Aegis, there's the blink into body blocks. Like, that's just beautiful.
Textbook. One of the best mechanics in Smite, and whether you want to call it a mechanic or not, I'm going to. Body blocking is one of the key aspects of Smite that really separates the different individual levels of play. Getting a 2-man body block onto one person, well, that's always one thing, but when you can get a solo body block like Dame did, and not even on a large god, Ao Kuang is one of your more average to smaller gods as far as hitbox is concerned, but he gets a perfect body block there up against Vi and evens up this kill count. Now 5-5, and even the gold has come back to a state of even, about a couple hundred up now for the neighborhood. XP also starting to shore its way here. I say that, but XP has actually shot up drastically for neighborhood. 3,000 up over reverse card.
Yeah, that ends up being a really big fight. A lot of crucial kills for neighborhood. Delny does go down, but Delny makes a big rotation for them. They strip away a lot of Lotus Flowers and at least power up some of the obelisks. At this point, neither has actually been filled because they've been taking them away from each other so much. This should fill up the one on the side of reverse guard.
Yeah,
so that's at least going to put a stop to that. But ultimately, this has been a very big like rotationary prowess fight on the left. Whoever's there first and whoever's able to pick up a bigger fight has ultimately come out on top. This could make a big difference though for the Gold Fury.
Gold Fury started. Vonson is here. Pops the Earthern Fury. Goes for the stun, but gets picked up before he can even drop it. Reverse card. Able to get the Gold Fury, but will they be able to get out of the fight because Delny teleports into the back line to find Conviction all by himself. Use the dazzling offensive, gets the beads and the Aegis off of the Hunter. And Slash is the only one who eats the stun.
You know, you get teleport and ult for Beads, Aegis. Honestly, Beads and Aegis are worth so much, but Conviction hasn't been in a lot of these fights. Stay safe, maybe opens up some opportunities over there on the left. I want to see what they can do with this. I mean, you know, part of my brain wants to say rush down at FG. It's 15.5 minutes, and that's not a good part of my brain to listen to.
14-minute one earlier.
Yeah, but reasonably, that is not something that we're going to see too often. And so that is, you know, what do you do with this? You lose the Gold Fury, an unfortunate timing to really pick up Vonson, a great ult from Monster Bomber to make sure that there's no chance of a steal. And you get a nothing afterward. I mean, a tower, a tier 1 helps take a little bit of a dent, but realistically right now, if you're Neighborhood, you need something big to help alleviate that pressure.
Drop kick. Does connect, but it doesn't do anything. Valo is now stuck inside the Lightning Storm as Junpei is raining terror upon the enemy team here and finally puts Neighborhood up ahead as far as the kill count is concerned. But Gormeister kind of talking about relics. You know, we had the teleport and ultimate expended for Beads and Aegis. That teleport's about to be back up for Delny. But everybody on the Neighborhood has picked up a set of purification beads just because of the level of CC that Reverse Card has.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think about it. You get drop kicked, you can get stunned by Slash, you can get anti-healed by Slash, although that's not something you're using beads for often.
If only.
It is a lot of Monster Bomber that is causing trouble, but Conviction has a stun. There's just a lot that you're going to get hit by throughout all of this. And nothing that's wildly large AoE CC, but enough that you need to be afraid of it, especially like this. I mean, 2 minutes left on the beads there for Dame. If he gets picked up, that's an easy kill.
Monster Bomber was desperate to get a bite there, but Dame just a little too fast for the old Finner. So Ragnarok is down off that rotation. Vonson will find a nice stun on Vi in the mid lane, but there's not much more to be had there. Just CCing him a little bit, getting some damage on that mid lane and support. That tier 1 tower is down, and that's been able to net a little bit of an advantage here for Dane and for the rest of the Neighborhood. Now, once again, the Pyromancer that started up earlier by this team is taken by that team, almost stolen by Slash. But Vonson has lost over 3/4 of his health just trying to zone so that way this Pyromancer could go to his team.
Yeah, but being able to pick that up helps, again, really neglect or change up the pressure that was given by that Gold Fury, right? And that also comes in handy. You had mentioned the tiered 1 and mid being down. Delny using teleport. I didn't expect to see that coming through. Maybe looking for a fight in mid, but realistically, it's because they're missing that tower. You open up yourselves to a lot of pressure. That Pyromancer becomes a lot easier to take because they don't have a tier 1 to defend under, and they have to sit back a little further to stay as safe. I was talking to this about with Katie the other day, actually, because I like using the term line of scrimmage a lot in Smite. And, like, neutral ground, all towers are up. It's just the middle 50% line on the map. You're just right in the middle. But it's moved closer to Reverse Card's base because of the tier 1 towers they've lost. And that affords a lot of space for Neighborhood to just kind of flex out their work. They don't have, like, a massive gold lead. They don't really have a team fight that's been so overwhelmingly successful that you have to be scared of it. But they do have more safety that they can fall back to, and that gives them the opportunity to run further forward.
When did Delny sneak a 3-level lead over Slash here in the solo
Oh my God,
lane?
wait.
Even 2 levels out of Dame. Only person who's behind on the side of Neighborhood is the mid laner, but that's to Jumpa's credit. He has been kind of jumped on by every single member of Reverse Card throughout the entirety of this game, all up until at least now where it's been a little bit more calm. But Neighborhood have been able to build themselves a very nice lead on this right side of the map, and Delny's not going to give it up. He actually dashes in and steals the Lotus away from Slash after Slash put in all that work to drop the Serpent Camp.
Yeah, that's just frustrating. It hurts so much. There's only one way
all this
to
work,
describe
and for
that.
what?
And now
Nothing.
Vonson actually could get caught out. This is the moments where things really get almost awkward for any of these players. One pick, especially onto a frontliner, but like if Vonson dies there, with the grouping that Reverse Card had versus where the rest of the Neighborhood was, That's a Fire Giant, like, almost for free. Might be contested a little bit, might have to show face, but then you have a fight that's not necessarily wanted by the neighborhood, getting rolled into Reverse Guard, who are grouped up really well. With this Primal Fury coming up, I anticipate them really looking at what the neighborhood has been doing, trying to read specifically their rotations right now, and putting some pressure on that. I mean, they've got good confirm for it, at least good burn for it is probably the better way to. Neither of these teams can really confirm it the way they'd like. Worst case scenario, you get to start off a big fight. Beads are up for everybody, so maybe you need to burn something before you can really engage, but I think Reverse Guard have some openings coming up in the next couple of minutes.
Gore, I just do not understand what is happening as far as mages and what in the world they build out here. The Celestial Legion Home, we've been seeing some popularity, but a Void Stone now from Jumpin'. This isn't the first time that we've seen a Void Stone picked up. We'll talk a little bit more about that maybe after this fight goes down. Primal Fury started by the neighborhood. Mostly a heat check here to see if Reverse Guard are going to walk up and see if they're willing to commit anything. But this has gone beyond just a heat check. This is now a full-on fight as Monster Bomber goes in the backline, picks up Jumpa, who drops him right inside the Suns. But it's a one-for-one trade as Mineral takes down the support, who lost his life for the mid laner. A drop kick by Valo is at least going to push them away, but Dame has already picked up Vi, and the ultimate just off the mark of the execute. It's dead. It's going to be Valo picking up the double kill. Delny stuck in the backline, and Mineral gets a double of his own. Now it's the solo laner and the Hunter up alive to fight through, and it's Mineral at the end who comes with the triple kill. Delny just off the mark with finding Valo with that dash, but Valo is sitting so far back there, not going to continue. It just ends on a triple from Mineral.
I don't know. I think they could have turned around. Look at that mana bar. They had enough. They could have done it. 2v1, gotten the Quadra. I would have believed in them. But I think they, they play it smart. They play it safe. They stay alive, which is maybe the smarter thing to do there. A lot of relics get burned in that fight. A lot of pressure. Admittedly, I mean, you had mentioned it. Jumpa's not worth as much as like Vi is because Vi has the lead there. Dame and specifically Vonson going down is beneficial overall just because of the small leads they had. But it is still a big deal. You get a triple kill there for Mineral, and it's such a clean amount of tracking as well. You can see the damage he's outputting. Kernanos was not a god I thought we were going to see multiple times today, but we're in that position now. And you really get to see where he can be successful. Having a dash that helps create some space, specifically now the root and cripple that you can have if you throw out your 2 and have that work really well to help either disengage or re-engage. But this was just good old carry. This was just, I'm going to hit you with my autos real hard, and good luck trying to get away from it.
Nice little dash at that very end actually gets him out of the stun.
Yeah, that one's
sets
beautiful.
him up for the kill. Just great little play there by Mineral, making sure to hold on to that horn charge because we saw him use it one time at the very beginning of that fight to get away from the ultimate of Slash. You remember he used Lord of the Afterlife to initiate there. Mineral dashes away, creates some space for himself, sits back as far as he can away from Slash to make sure he can get that damage. And then one last time right at the end of that fight to use it to get away from the stun. But the Primal Fury that started the last fight is going to start yet again. Mineral gets picked up by Monster Bomber, and they're going to erase him right away. But Conviction goes down just as quickly. It's a double kill for Vonson off the damage of the ultimate after Vi is slowed down. Vonson is just beating him across the head with his own fist while the rest of the team piles in. Delny gets him with the shield charge right after, and Slash is doing everything that he can to find Jumpa, but he just can't get there in time. Valo, I think you might want to turn tail and run, my friend, because this team is going to erase you if you walk in.
Yeah, chasing him down. That's a good blink for the disengage. Delny could still chase, might still chase, but that opens up a conversation. I want to look at specifically Jumpa. Lots of damage that gets output there. But you had been talking about this build earlier, and kind of the rise in what we had seen. The Void Stone, if you want to talk about it, but specifically the Celestial Legion Helm as well. Both of these, I think, just working in tandem. Zeus does a lot of good damage. And he does it in his base kit, whether or not you itemize heavily for that. But you're getting decent chunks of power. I mean, Void Stone isn't necessarily known for being a power item, but I think it's 90 on the Celestial Legion Helm that you're going to be able to get. Plus, you're getting protections for both of them, so physical procs keeping them alive. That's a lot of power for a defense item. Just going to throw that one out there. Plus, you get a stack of physical protection, all that fun stuff. And all of that stacking with this health and reducing magical prots by people who are within your auto range. I mean, it almost feels like it was made for Zeus for this build to become meta and burn people down. And Jumpa really got to utilize these items in that last engagement, runs right into the fray of things, is in the middle of almost all of the damage, takes a lot, gets burned down to about 1/3 HP, and doesn't have to sweat it because his damage output had already killed 2 people, and the last guy that was alive has to turn tail and run or die.
And it's essentially a penetration item, except it doesn't actually count towards your actual penetration build. And now you can see Jumpa going towards an Obsidian Shard for his next item after. So a lot of percent pen stacked on with the single flat pen that he picked up earlier on with Spear of Desolation. If you look at the player damage charts, though, he's kind of on the lower end, about 8,700 out of Jumpa in the mid lane, compared to the basically doubled amount of damage that the Tiamat has done on the other end. And it was a Gold Fury start by Reverse Card, but somebody made a call of, guys, we don't know where the neighborhood's at. And the neighborhood is destroying the Fire Giant, sneaking that one away with no ward coverage at all by Reverse Card to notice it. And unfortunately for them, they just noticed a little too late that no one was on the map.
Yeah, I love the rotation that you could see Reverse Card, like the recognition of, oh no, oh no, oh no, and really trying to run over there as fast as they could. The problem is, and I love that Jumpa does this, Lightning Storm, Zeus, just the damage that you're going to have from this mid laner, it's great for burning objectives, and that Fire Giant fell fast once Jumpa turned over there, and it made it a lot more difficult, now almost impossible, for Reverse Card to do anything about it. They're going to have to give up at least 2 of these tier 2s. It just depends on where Neighborhood want to put their pressure. There's still that Primal Fury available. There's a lot of opportunities and availabilities for them on the map, but with 2 tier 2s still standing, and what, 3 minutes left in a power play? Yeah, you've got plenty of time to kind of take a breath, relax, and figure out where you want to put your assault.
Good lord, that Fury died fast. It felt like the instant that Neighborhood walked up to it is already at half health. You can start seeing the damage numbers coming online. A lot of crit out of Mineral. He's got his Wind Demon and his Deathbringer finished up, just waiting to kind of upgrade that Deathbringer to its tier 4 slot. The Envenom Deathbringer seems to be the very popular option by a lot of Hunter players. Even that Death's Toll still needs to hit its final stage. I'm curious where the rest of the builds are going to go here. If Jumpa's going to go for more flat pen, maybe go for some utility, even defense could be an option. But no, for now, he is going to upgrade that starter item, Protector of the Jungle, and the Envenom Deathbringer now for Mineral.
And honestly, that's the starter. First off, again, 100 magical power. That's a lot of power that Zeus is going to be very, very happy with. The Envenom Deathbringer, this is the one that was fun, because I remember when it came out. And honestly, for Kernanos, it feels like, I want to say either or. It doesn't really feel like either or, but ultimately having some cooldown wouldn't hurt him, right? It's not the end of the world. Adding poison to somebody, though, feels way better in this case, especially with the amount of crits we've already seen. I don't know, that feels like a really big power spike alongside this Fire Giant for Neighborhood. I think this is going to be a really wide opening for them. Difficult for Reverse Card to make some defenses, but now you have to look under the Phoenixes where they're going to try and hold on. They've got good CC, again, very single target, but one good dropkick could stun a few people. It's just getting in there and causing that disruption. The peel has been so good from Neighborhood, and when you have this Terra to play up against, it's going to be difficult. But if you look at what Monster Bomber and Slash are going to be able to do in terms of disruption, it should be big.
Or maybe what Bonson's going to do, he blinks into the backline and ults against 3 different people, but none of the damage has been proc just yet. Instead, he himself has to get out of there. And I think it's important to note that Vonson hasn't built into a ton of defense just yet. He's still fairly power heavy compared to his opposition in the support. Delny goes in with the ultimate, and so does Monster Bomber and Slash. They are diving in to try and kill Jumpa, but kill Jumpa they will not, and instead, it's Slash and Monster Bomber now on the run, but Dame doesn't get the chance to make it out. He doesn't get the opportunity, and neither does Follow. They both fall down, but Vi's got a double kill, making a triple kill right out the gate, and Delny, the last survivor of the Neighborhood, has to turn tail and run, and look at the fear put in Delny's eyes. The beads when the bounce was not even on the mark.
I mean, that is, you have to be safe, right? You want to make sure you get out of there. You want to make sure that you can stay alive, and you have to be there to defend. I mean, you've got 30 seconds by yourself. You've got 30 seconds that you are the only person who is going to be able to slow down this roll that the Reverse Card is on. Might not be enough to kill to win the game. In fact, it won't be enough to win the game here, because you have to wait on this minion wave. You're taking a long time to burn through this tower. Everyone would respawn right as you entered the Titan room. Could they put some pressure onto that Phoenix? Maybe, if they had wanted to. Fire Giant's going to be coming up, though, in a little over a minute, and there's some other objectives across the map that will at least lend them a little bit of experience and gold. Playing catch-up right at this point in terms of specifically the gold that they need to get some of the items back in their favor. But that is such a great defense for them. If you are ever in a position like this, a team full Fire Giant, lots of damage, it's very difficult to find the damage necessary to turn things around. But you had mentioned earlier that Vi had like twice what Jumpa had been able to put out, top damage in the lobby. It was one hit away from being a quadra kill there. If Delny hadn't had that dash available, it would have been a lot easier for Reverse Guard to continue just running down. But they still get 2 towers out of it. They set themselves up beautifully for the next Fire Giant.
Yeah, they at least shore up some of that gold disparity too. 5,000 now only separates these two teams. 10,000 experience basically doesn't matter at this point, as nearly everybody has hit level 20 in the lobby. It's only Monster Bomber a couple levels down. But I think one thing to kind of note here is Vonson's gone for the Scorching Blink compared to the Corrupted, which with the nerf to the Scorching Blink and kind of the way that Terra plays, I would imagine Corrupted would be the better call, especially with so many auto attackers. You dive in, you slow down their attack speed, you slow them down, but instead trying to get some of this extra damage out of this Blink.
Yeah, that's, I'll admit, not the Blink I thought I'd see on pretty much anybody.
And that's not the health bar you would expect to see for a Terra, but with low defenses, Vonson stands no chance, but neither does Slash Mineral, able to cut him down. And it's already a 1-for-1 in the fight. Delny wants to stop this, and Vi, who was able to get some big damage last time, detonate out of Jumpa, will finally get it, but again, it's another 2-for-2 trade, and Conviction stuck around this shield. Has to dive himself away because he does not want to eat any more damage out of Jumpa. But a 2-for-2, both solo laners, but it's a mid for support.
And that, it feels more worthwhile for Neighborhood, but you do have to recognize late game, you don't got any frontline now. Like, Dame is not building as a frontliner. He's not going to be tanky enough. If Dame goes in, Dame can get killed very, very quickly. And I like this. Look at Conviction and Monster Bomber. If they find one person taking a step, they have a ward to cover it. They could have gotten aggressive. They're going to go ahead and fall back. It's smart not to stay there forever, but being able to potentially get the drop on somebody just trying to peek into the Fire Giant pit, that could be a really big kill and a very huge opportunity for the team if they find one.
But you can see that there is a ward up top there for the Neighborhood. So they do spot that this is happening. And it will just be a back off here. 2-for-2 trade in that last fight. All to kind of get the ball rolling and get set up for this Fire Giant. And we see kind of the downside here, Gore, of Vonson's build. Sure, the Blink wasn't going to make too much of a difference in that fight, but he doesn't have a very defense-heavy build. He does have, the Sentinel's Embrace to give him some extra shared protections across the board. He's got the Sovereignty and a Lotus Crown and that Void Stone. So yes, those do offer defenses, but those aren't high defense options. And we're going to see it put on display here yet again. Vonson dragged into the back line and burned down immediately once again. Delny trying to get to the back, and so is Dame. He's putting out a lot of damage, and he will be able to grab Conviction. It's now 1-for-1, make it 2 as Mineral grabs another, but Slash takes down Jumpa, and it's Mineral versus Slash again on the back line. Slash goes in, slows him down, but Dame finds the execute, finds the double kill, and it's now just the frontliners left. Delny will dive in against Monster Bomber. Dame will make sure to deal with Slash, and now it's a reverse triple kill here. It's Dame coming out on top.
And I think they have exactly what they need. I mean, no Fire Giant means it's going to take a little while, but look at the timers. They can just run down mid. They've got the minion wave, and they've got Mineral. This is exactly the kind of scenario you need to win the game.
Dame coming up big in that last fight. A nice triple kill to seal the deal and close out game one. Gore, one of our longest games of the entire weekend here. 33 minutes that Neighborhood play. 33 minutes that they have battled back and forth to the reverse card. But finally, the end of game one is here, and it's the Neighborhood on top.
Honestly, shaky for a couple of moments there. They did come on top, but early on, it's going to be reverse card that's finding a lot of wins. After that defense, it feels like it's a reverse card game. And then those last couple of fights are just perfectly timed, specifically getting rid of the Tiamat early on in the engagement. And Dame, the first time they went in, they kind of skirmish. Dame comes out at like 1/3 HP and is just like, all right, hold on, I'm going to back up. I don't want to take this one. And then they push forward, and they have that resurgence there the second time around. You don't need a Fire Giant when you have things like that. You have so much time to work with. I love that they just run it down mid, but you have to question whether or not it was worth as close as it was, right? I mean, they had a pretty massive lead, and there were a lot of moments where a draft that just had stronger picks was deflecting them left and right. So I think if they can find something a little more consistent, or if maybe that was just getting some of the jitters out and now they have the one-game lead, they can relax. I want to see them clean it up just a little bit, and I think that could be a really good performance for the Neighborhood.
Well, the Neighborhood win game one. Vonson, maybe a little pun intended here, the perfect lightning rod for his team in order to get a nice little win there at the very end of it all. Neighborhood come out on top game one. Can they do it in game number 2?
What is maybe the closest game of the week so far. The neighborhood are able to grab game number 1 over reverse card. This one's very back and forth in the early game. The team fights even into the late game felt very, very close, and eventually just some individual plays are ultimately what make the difference. We had a little bit of everything, it felt like, in game number 1 between these two teams, and a whole lot of fun still over the horizon. We got to break down what we just saw. Mifflin is going to do all of that.
All of it?
Go ahead.
You're not even going to like direct me a little bit?
Miff,
Just give me carte blanche?
I will. Well, I'm nervous to give you carte blanche. To be clear, I'm sure you could do it, but I don't know what direction you're going to take it, so I will guide you. I think that the Yao Kuang took us a bit by surprise. Not a pick I expected to see, but that pick out of the jungle in big moments in those team fights made a big difference.
Yeah, I think so. Dame really does step up for this team, and it was the point of contention that I brought up on the initial desk. When you have the hot hand and jump a jungle, it didn't really make sense to me to see that shift up, but I could tell just that the communication was a lot better. Dame performs very well. So I think that making that adaptation has worked out very well for this squad, and Yao Kuang is a pick that I will always be an ardent defender of. It has phenomenal scaling, great objective damage, the ability to finish off some of these kills that would have slipped away. And even in the early game, that Execute is such a threat that if somebody doesn't have beads, they legitimately are not allowed to interact with you. So Game was allowed to free farm for a very large portion of this game, due in fact to Delany making a lot of rotations. I think Delany really did a good job of kind of shoring up that lack of jungle presence for the first 10 or so minutes of the game while this Alquang was accumulating farm.
Yeah, Delany created so much space on this Amaterasu. And remember, Myth, going into this game, we of course talked about the role swap between Dame and Jumpa, and wondered how that might impact picks and bans. You know, this reverse card team had limited data on the neighborhood anyway, and now you're also role swapping within that team suddenly, who we're expecting to see in jungle, things like that maybe are a little bit changed up. I'm not sure that that reverse card we're fully expecting in Alquang jungle to come through in this game. Role swap or not, I don't think anybody was expecting that. But a big triple kill seals game number 1. And now the pressure starts to set in. The buzzword of the day, the buzzword of the week has been pressure, and it's really here for reverse card. You got a little breathing room if you're the neighborhood. You need to just win 1 out of the next 2, but it's got to be 2 straight for reverse card to avoid going home early in this losers bracket. Valo had a real nice game in the jungle there on that Gilgamesh, and big damage coming out of Vi. Actually, the Tiamat I thought was going to turn that game around towards the end. The base defense was big. The damage number started to roll. Just felt like too much consistent damage from the neighborhood, despite otherwise really good-looking damage numbers from reverse card really across the board. Everyone was a little bit higher in the damage department on reverse card than they were in the neighborhood. But the team fighting in the moments and the individual plays, things like that, the executes, just too good for the neighborhood here in this game. So maybe a bit back to the drawing board. But again, Miff, when you talk about these unique picks, there's only so much you can adapt to, right? I mean, you're not going to suddenly start playing around an Alquang jungle, you wouldn't think.
No, generally the ability to play around Alquang jungle is just draft pressure and try and make sure that he isn't allowed to farm up early, which seems to be generally the jungle meta right now. A lot of the picks that we are seeing are high pressure. I would argue that entire game 1 comes down to draft differential. I mean, it just really was a very hard time to apply the CC that reverse card needed. It was really just that Ragnarok consistently burning beads. Had they had just one more piece of AoE CC, I feel like that whole game could have turned around. And we saw it even in play on field. Reverse card were playing from behind. They were playing against a very fed Alquang, and a couple of times were nearly able to completely turn this match.
Miff, I want to ask your take on something.
Please.
Saying like draft diff versus draft differential. If you complete the full, do you think it's more polite when you complete the full word and say differential? Like if you had just said it was draft diff, do you think that's more harsh than you saying draft differential?
I think they're the exact same. Do you want to know why I said differential?
Yeah.
I like brain fogged super hard.
You just
and I was buying time
one
for myself.
more syllable to make your way through. I appreciate the
Differential is my
Right, I appreciate your peek behind the curtain there, Miff, and the way your brain pulls the levers to make words come out. You often do it in a very good way. Let's catch back up.
I often speak well.
You often speak well. Let's catch back up with picks and pans, though. For game number 2, a must-win game for reverse card. Here in game 2, bans remain similar. Persephone taken away. Reverse card realized that yesterday Mineral looked good on this Olarun pick. And it's interesting because it was that one game where Jumpa popped off on the Nem, right? And it was kind of that rock, paper, scissors style of game that we talked about. Mineral picked the Olarun, and then a counter pick came in the Cthulhu, and that's when the Nem pick answered back from Jumpa. But for reverse card, Olarun has been the takeaway from that, and another magical ADC in the Soul also banned away. In the neighborhood, do not want to deal with an Amaterasu first pick. Instead, Ardio Myth continues her reign towards the top of the solo lane tier list.
Just a very safe, consistent pick. You can take it first up overall. There aren't really many guys that like make it hard for Ardio to operate, so it almost tells me that the reverse card is kind of waiting to see what they want to do with the rest of their draft. What direction do they want to take this? Because Ardio, very much so, is a plug-and-play god. I do want to point out that reverse card going towards this Olarun ban twice is interesting, unless Mineral was just straight up lying during the interview. He said, I didn't like how the Olarun played. I don't want to go towards these picks anymore. Not exactly fitting the meta. But reverse card sticking with it. Maybe just saying, hey, why would he tell the truth?
Maybe that means he was also lying about playing to make the other team lose more than playing to make himself win.
We can't just slander him now.
Right,
There's no way Joe's just a liar.
No, right. No chance. No, I think answer those questions properly. Zeus and Gilgamesh, first 2 picks here for the neighborhood. All right, so let's look at our Vani list. He tweeted just prior to the set that he would be playing Fenrir, Yamoja, Terra, and Guan. We already saw Terra in game 1. Obviously, repeats allowed, I assume, in the game that Vani is playing here. But if he sticks with it, one of those 4 might be the support pick here for the neighborhood. Not on that list is Bacchus, and that's what the reverse card are going to be playing in support here, as well as the Agni. As far as frontline and engage, the reverse card have already drafted here, Mif. Do you like what you see with Ardio and Bacchus?
Consistent CC, great beads burning capacities. Bacchus, a little bit one note in how he engages, but still that note is incredibly strong. Belly flop, a really good tool against gods like Zeus. Very easy to land those until Ares chains connects, and then you're crippled for like 10 entire seconds. But Ardio should be able to shore up some of that weakness as well. I think that reverse card have also got themselves a sneaky good matchup in mid between Agni and Zeus. Zeus generally is going to apply his poke by throwing the shield out and then doing chain lightning. It's very easy for Agni to avoid that damage and then return it from a range that really Zeus can't play from. That Rainfire, a very good tool, a very good god in general is Agni with this new Season 9 style build.
Unlucky that Ares was such a good pick here for Vonson because wasn't on his list of picks going into this game. Unlucky that it was just...
It might not be his. It's just not his.
If that ends up happening, wild. I just think it just makes it, I don't know, it just makes sense in support. So I give him a little freedom from the list because it does make a lot of sense here in the neighborhood draft. Final couple of bans rolling through for the neighborhood. That's Daji and Kamazats out of the jungle being taken away, and reverse card will diversify their bans just a little bit. Cupid on one side of the map and then Odin on the other. Odin's been a pretty consistent priority here this weekend, Miff, and reverse card realize that an Odin might hurt their efforts here in game 2.
And it's just an age-old classic combo, Odin plus Zeus, circle on circle, very easy to apply that damage.
And there's a Winds of Shamash.
Yeah, and there's a Winds of Shamash. And I guess Ares ult, if we want to be like weird about it, is also a giant circle that's the exact same size as a Zeus ult / Odin cage. So yeah, great ban, good stuff.
I like that you weirded yourself out.
Yeah, I was like, why am I saying this?
You started off with great analysis, and then right towards the end, we started to make our way around it. More circles, more AoE, finding its way into the neighborhood draft here. Cabrakan locked in for the neighborhood. And so some flexibility here, Miff, between Ares and Cabrakan. Only one of them can go support, and so you're going to have to send the other somewhere else. Cabrakan has seen play in support
and mid.
In jungle. Or no, maybe it's mid, not jungle yet, right?
No, we've seen jungle.
So we've seen all roles.
We haven't seen mid.
We haven't seen mid.
Not this week, no.
Solo. So Cabrakan has flexibility in everything but carry. Watch, it's going to be Cabrakan carry.
I hope so, man.
That'd be absolutely nuts. Now, this is an interesting jungle pick only because it feels like all week long up to this point, Bastet was banned out and left unable to play by anyone. And now we're looking at what would be an 8th pick Bastet here for reverse card.
Yeah, and I think Bastet is pretty detrimental to the neighborhood. Zeus is going to struggle a lot against this pick. Already in a mobile mage, now has to contend with large CC through walls. Even Ares, if you're able to dislocate him early on, going to be very susceptible. Even Cabrakan as well. So I think Bastet, just a great pick here. And you can also play that kind of in and out style where you are diving under the Zeus, apply claws, immediately disengage. You don't necessarily have to get kills with Bastet. There's something to be said of just that TKO style. Just apply your damage, get out, and then back up towards maybe an objective or something along those lines.
Well, the neighborhood's still needing some ranged physical damage, and that means the dream is over. And Vonnie is playing a pick that is not on the list that he tweeted out.
He's going to lose now.
No, I think that's it's like a smoke screen. You're making reverse card assume that it's going to be one of those, and then that left any competitive advantage you can take.
We're not calling Mineral a liar, but we will call Vonson a liar because he lied.
Right. All right. Miff, I'm not going to follow you down. I'm not going to follow you down that rabbit hole. Let's talk about the draft that we've got here.
Okay, true or false? Did he lie?
Let's talk about the drafts that we've got here. Reverse card have Ardio, Bacchus, Agni, Bastet, and Heimdall, Miff. Let's zone in on that pick first and foremost. We have not seen Heimdall picked or banned all weekend long. What do you think makes some sense here for this one?
It's got a CC immune ultimate, so it's decent into the Ares. It's one of the safer picks that you can go to, or if not the safest hunter in the game, so you don't have to worry so much about these early rotations. If it is going to be Cabrakan jungle, or if it even is Gilgamesh, Heimdall's got good answers to both of those picks. Hou-Yi, his mainstay, the thing that makes Hou-Yi good is his ability to find those 1v1s. But the strength of Heimdall is that he gets to choose every single engagement. If Heimdall doesn't want to fight you, it simply won't happen. He could just choose not to engage with all those safety tools. So I think that it really is leave Heimdall alone, play around the mid 3v3 for reverse card. Once this Bacchus, Agni, and Bastet can start to group up and fight, it's going to be very hard for the Zeus to survive that dive.
I am curious, Miff. We now see the entirety of the reverse card draft locked in after the Ares. We figured Ares was a good pick anyway into the Bacchus. Now with the full draft to look at for reverse card, are you still feeling good? Are you feeling better or the same about this Ares pick now looking at the rest of the draft that the Ares is being played into?
Yeah, I don't think Ares is a pick that is so strong that you could say, okay, well, yeah, it's a really long cripple. We can't draft gods that need leaps or need dashes or something along those lines. So I think Ares' inherent strength against the top 3 selection is already so good. And it has stayed equally good with this Bastet and Heimdall lock-in.
It hasn't gotten much better or worse. I think the carries of the neighborhood is going to be something interesting to follow along with. We have seen great Zeus moments so far this weekend. Zeus and Ho Yi, the idea of circles, Myth, it's real simple geometry, isn't it, for the neighborhood here in this game? I'm going to put circles down, whether it's Zeus, whether it's Ho Yi, Gilgamesh, Ares, and Kabrakan are going to be pushing everyone into those circles. We'll see if circles and geometry can win the day for the neighborhood. Game number 2, let's kick it off.
How many Venn diagrams can we make with this team composition, Goremizer? I mean, it's circles on a semicircle, but also still circles within that Kabrakan via the way of those tremors. Game number 2, reverse card on the door to defeat. If they lose this, they are out of the tournament. If they win, they take us on to game number 3. And what a composition to bring out here. Bacchus, a god that we saw so little of throughout all of Season 8. Now we've seen him for, what, like the 3rd time so far this week.
Yeah, he keeps coming back, and again, I like what he has. Normally I could talk about anti-heal, although there's not much need for that. He's got a good stun. He's just aggressive. He likes to fight. He does good damage, and his ult can really shake up the way that fights go down. But the good news is that you've got an Ares on the other side that hopefully, if you're a neighborhood fan or one of the 5 players, will really control and slow down what's going to be coming out of him. Chain will either stop or prevent the belly flop from coming through, and will slow down what Monster Bomber is going to be able to do in terms of engage, and that'll make things a little more awkward for them. Conviction almost takes a lot of damage there.
Yeah, Conviction kind of teleports his way right back in its lane. Lucky for him, Vonson didn't go with Chains level 1. He went with the Fire instead. So that means that he does get to walk away and doesn't have to lose out on his beads. And speaking of those, the only person to not pick up a set of beads just yet is Slash. Everybody else on reverse card, though, they want to make sure they have those purification beads going up against this Ares. And even still, it's not just the Ares they got to worry about. But maybe Neighborhood should start worrying because they get hit by this double stun out of Monster Bomber. But it's not just the Ares, though, Gore. I mean, you still have Gilgamesh, Kabrakan, and even a little bit out of Mineral to worry on.
Yeah, some stuns that are, again, going to be everywhere. A lot more consistent to get rid of Ares. The good news for Vonson is that not only does he have that blink early on, and not too much to worry about on the other side. Vi?
Oh, did he just kicked the cat? He uses the cat to get the first blood. Are you kidding me? I don't think I've ever seen that before. What a play coming out from
That's
Dave
animal
from
cruelty.
Newark.
I don't know if we're allowed to show this.
He just beats Joe.
Man, and he got the stun. That's bonkers. That's good.
No, that's called
Let's
that's called a bonk right on top of Vi's head with Valo's own cat. Baited the bead super early too. Vi was expecting the drop kick right away, but instead he gets baited out of it.
That's just impressive. Yeah, I want to watch this again because this is kind of nuts. It kind of hit me out of nowhere. Like, first off, that amount of damage hit me out of nowhere, but the cat
that is
into
insane.
Oh, that just feels bad. Your teammate Valo's just trying to help. All of a sudden, this kitten's getting used as a weapon, and it hurts you. I mean, Vi, that is punished for mistakes that weren't even theirs.
That's just
in that
so
one.
cruel.
But hey, let's shout out Dame from Newark, right? So going into the jungle yesterday, didn't have exactly the showing you'd want in mid. Jumpa, admittedly, has only played 1 god that we've seen in mid, and we're going to continue that route. But if you're going to make a play like that, I'm going to give you the credit that's necessary. I like the fact that he was on the jungle originally because I think this has fit pretty well so far. Even if he does kick cats.
We're going to keep coming back to that point.
That's right. Dame from Newark kicks cats, everyone.
Hold on.
We have visual proof.
Don't be taking this out of context here. He's only kicking Bastet's cats in this case.
They're all virtual.
Using them as a weapon here up against the mid laner. What a start by the neighborhood. And what a way to start game number 2 out here. Gets them off to an early tear. and make sure that Jumpa can play a little bit safer here. And kind of going
That's
back
so
to that
wild.
play.
I could watch that replay like 3 more times. It's just such a I never would have thought of that. And that's the sentence. I never would have thought of that.
I don't think anybody would have. And again, like you said, Valo was trying to help by it. He was trying to root him in place so he could get enough distance to get away from the drop kick. And he ends up sending cannon fodder his way to actually take down his own mid laner. Vi's probably yelling at Valo like, bro, I appreciate the effort, but don't ever do that to me again.
Oh man, now I'm just thinking of all the scenarios in this game that might show up. I mean, just think, like, knowing that can stun now, all of a sudden really does change the dynamic of Valo throwing out any cat, any pet throughout this game. All of a sudden becomes a potential weapon for the neighborhood.
What other pets could you do that with? You can't do it with the Minotaur, I don't believe, from Tiamat. You can't
The
do it with the
Minotaur!
Typhoon, with the Typhoon that comes out, the Cyclone. Maybe you can do it with the Lizards, but we'll hold that conversation until later. Ultimate out of Valo to pick up Vonson and bring him back to his doom. The Lightning Storm drops down, but it's not enough damage. Monster Bomber stunned against the wall, chased out, and the detonate from Jumpa is good to burn him out. 1-for-1 trade, and maybe even more as Dame steps too far forward, and Vi picks up a double kill as a redemption back against Dame.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, worthwhile overall for reverse card. They get rid of Dame and they kill off Monster Bomber. You should be very happy with that. Vonson was a very initial death, so it's a 2-for-1, and you are able to slow down this jungler. I think it's a big start for you and showcases where Valo's strengths still are going to be. Vonson, and as of right now, Delny, and, well, we have to look at it, Dame from Newark, do not have a way out of that ult if Valo gets aggressive.
Speaking about ultimates here, both of them expended out of the Hunters and Mineral on the worst end of that trade.
Mineral.
Both of their beads used here, and now Monster Bomber is on the way. But will Mineral spot it? It doesn't seem to be so. One leap is all Monster Bomber needs. He'll be a little bit off the mark there as Mineral has the audio cue to know to go up into that dive bomb and get out.
That's good reaction time, knowing that you, like, I gotta play careful, gotta play safe. You gotta know that someone has to be coming. And just having enough mana to be able to get up into the leap before anything can CC you is a good call there from Mineral and a good shout for him. Beads already being expended by both Hunters makes things a lot more
So close.
Jump is alive, though.
Vi will be alive here. Beads do have to be used in order to get himself out, but Jumpa eats the full force of an Agni, even in the early game, only 1 item deep.
The big news, I see 2 pairs of beads and then, of course, 1 player that doesn't have beads that are on a very hefty 2-minute cooldown as of right now. 1 that's still on a minute there for Monster Bomber. And Vonson still has Blink, just got ult. Vonson's in a great position if there's a grouping in mid to be able to pull at least 2 people, maybe 3, depending on not just Valo, but specifically if Conviction comes over there. And so I'm going to keep my eyes on this Ares, potentially opening up a lot of kills, a lot of damage potential, and a big gold swing potential if they can find those for the neighborhood. And he's going to lay in wait. I mean, I love this kind of positioning where he's standing. Unfortunately for him, we can see he is on top of a ward, so they know what he's looking for. But it's going to be a little more dangerous. Monster Bomber coming over here might not actually be the help that the team thinks it is.
And Valo used his ultimate last time to immune the Ares ult, so he has it here in case he needs it again, or could just use the ultimate to immune it one more time. That is the benefit of this Bastet now compared to what she used to
Vonson
be.
wants it so bad,
Vonson
dude.
is really fishing for this kill. I mean, he has put the highest of quality bait on the fishing hook, but still there isn't a single bite just yet out of reverse card. They are sitting in the depths of this tier 1 tower. Vi even going as so far as to dashing to the back of the tower to make sure that Vonson can't get anything here. And the obelisks have already been taken after some time here. Vonson goes back and I believe he picks up his scepter, so he'll have a little bit of extra boost to himself early on. But outside of those very early skirmishes and the very early cat kicking, it's been a fairly quiet game here at Gormage. Maybe not between us, but at least between the players here. 1,500 gold and XP separate the neighborhood from reverse card.
This is why timing is everything. A few seconds ago, there were 3 people on the map that were guaranteed pulled by the Ares ult in a really easy fashion. Right now, Conviction could probably use his ult if necessary, but his beats are going to be back up. With Monster Bomber's beats, guess what? They're back up. Delny seems to be just fine over here, so isn't too worried about it. And 40 seconds left on Vi. So realistically, Vonson's ultimate target has really been limited down to 1. It's still a big kill if you can kill off the mid laner, but it definitely does showcase why you need to try and burn those beads as much as possible here. Vonson hasn't been able to find as many opportunities, whether he gets the beads or if it's Dame with a really good drop kick. either one is going to open up opportunities for somebody to get a stun. And theoretically, then, for Jumpa to get a lot of damage on there. And I assume he's going to go for pretty much a very similar build. He's traded out what was the Spear of Desolation now for a Divine Ruin. But otherwise, it's still going to be a lot of power. Very similar, safe build if he goes for the Celestial Legion Helm into a Void Stone. So I wouldn't be surprised if he just follows the same route because it made him so much tankier and lived so long through those engagements before.
And a lot of credit to the ward coverage here for Reverse Card, knowing that mid laner is the primary target of this area. As you can even see Vias going so far as to picking up his own sentry wards at only level 10 in the game. I can't get anybody on my team besides me as the support to ever pick up a ward anywhere before like 15 minutes, and here the mid laners picking up sentries, picking up regular wards. But that's just the degree that they have to go because they know Vonson is sitting around these corners waiting for that blink ult opportunity. And so they're making sure they keep it covered. Quick dash reaction at a buy. Gets him away from there. Ultimate from Valo just keeps him from being pulled in. Vonson misses the chain off a beautiful jump from Valo, and that should be the end of the support's life. It's Valo who comes up with the last hit. But all the while, up by the top of the mid camp, it's Jumpa and Dame beating down Slash, who had rotated over towards the mid lane.
I mean, ults get dropped. Dame, if he can get out of this, is going to be a big deal, but right now it's slowed and knocked up.
Don't think he's making it out of here. The Belgian is enough damage at the end from Monster Bomber to take him down. And ends up being a 2-for-1 trade. Dame and Vonson both go down for the solo laner of all people who rotated in.
Yeah, I think Slash for Vonson, worthwhile for the neighborhood. Dame for anybody, not worthwhile at all, unless you're getting Valo and maybe Vi, right? You really needed Dame to be able to get out of there. Great call from Reverse Guard to make sure they get the gap. And again, it's just small moments. Not many people are going to get absolutely ruined by these chains. I say that, but actually there's quite a few people on Reverse Guard that get ruined by getting connected with chains. Only 2 of them could jump over it, though. And Valo was able to do exactly that. Leaps essentially over where the chain was going to be and is able to continue an onslaught. That opens up a good kill onto Vonson. Does not have, like health, has some physical prots, but not a lot to stay alive right now. To the support, you're going to need at least one more item before you're feeling as tanky as you can be. And Dame, unfortunately, just gets caught out at the tail end of that, trying to get away. They do get a good kill, but it's that what cost question that has to be asked.
Vonson really wants to get a kill. He really wants to get some blink ult beads burning because he went as far as picking up a second item Relic Dagger. It'll get some cooldown reduction, but most importantly, a 40-second reduction on the cooldown of all of his relics. So that blink is going to come up just a little bit quicker, more aligned and kind of more akin to the timings of his ultimate.
I like the aggression that I keep seeing out of this team. Yeah, it's going to be just difficult. I'm trying to think of good scenarios for Vonson. So far, there haven't been a lot, right? I mean, you've got 4 pairs of beads that are available. The chains, unfortunately, have been coming just a little bit late or just off the mark. And so a lot of the window of opportunity where I like this Ares hasn't been able to happen. Valo, on the other side, has been able to capitalize on a lot of those moments. We've gotten to see this, a 1-0-3. He's part of every single kill so far that Reverse Card has been able to pick up. And getting 2 of those kills onto your mid laner has at least made this Agni more comfortable. You had mentioned the reaction time. So far, we've seen nothing but good reaction time from these 2 players. You can tell they're in the zone, and it's fun to watch. But it is also making it very difficult for anyone to truly pull ahead. I mean, even the lead that Neighborhood have in gold isn't that high.
It's about the same that it's been for the last 6 minutes of play, just about sitting around 1,500 gold, 1,600 experience, and it hasn't really changed all that much, even with an additional 3 kills that have happened since that time. It's been fairly quiet across the board. Vonson really wants to get the action going. He really wants to get that ball rolling himself. With the Relic Dagger, the Blink, would not be surprised if we had a very early upgrade of Blink to reduce some of those cooldowns of itself to kind of couple alongside with this Relic Dagger. But for now, he's going to need somebody else to help him burn these beads. I'm expecting maybe some more beads burning once Delny starts rotating over to these fights so he can have a second fairly consistent target to grab those.
You know, we talked about the net worth, and I just look at the charts and realistically just seeing, like, you know, when you look at it, 1,500 gold, that means it should be around 300 per player on the team, right? Assuming everybody's kind of equilateral on that. And it's going to skew because you can see there's only, like, I think a couple hundred separating them. Now, actually, 400 separating mid lane. But this is the exact way you want it to be. I mean, admittedly, you might want Vonson a little higher, but everybody sitting on top of reverse card is a great deal for them to be able to start picking up these items. If we're talking about the ward game and the coverage that we were earlier, that should help out the neighborhood in terms of counter warding, or at least just getting some vision out there to enable Vonson, to enable Delny to really pick off some of these fights and start things up.
Monster Bomber did not care about any of Vonson's damage. Ate a couple of chains and ate a full charge of the flame, and he's still sitting nice and healthy. Red buff started up here by reverse card, dropped and saved for Vi, but the neighborhood, they are desperate for a fight, and so is Mineral. He'll drop the Suns in the left side of the map, and that initiates a fight that I don't think the neighborhood was quite willing to take here. Dame has to use his own purification beads to get himself out. Vonson doesn't have any to himself. He'll get rooted out, crippled by Slash. The dash is good, the slow is good, but how many will you pull in? The answer to that is none. He'll only be pulled into his own death. Valo gets the credit for the kill. The walls from Delny holding everybody back. Monster Bomber goes back in, Jumpa drops the Lightning Storm and picks up a double kill with the detonate. Big damage. Finally coming out here from the mid laner to turn this around to be a 2-for-1.
Yeah, I'd trade Vonson for that any day of the week. That is absolutely worthwhile. You've got this level 11 Ares that did exactly what you want. He burns a couple of beads, he forces people to be CC immune and play awkwardly around that corner, and then Delny just gets a beautiful wall separating people in. I believe I saw someone even jump in, it might have been Monster Bomber, I'm not sure, after the wall was up. So all of a sudden, you're now kind of locked in with the rest of the neighborhood. A beautiful Lightning Storm from Jumpa, and soon enough, he's going to have that build that was set up to really help strip away some protections and enable him to do even more damage. I mean, that was exactly the way you would want it to be played, and now Neighborhood are really going to be able to feel at least comfortable with the next couple of fights.
Good beads out of Mineral, make sure the belly flop doesn't connect, because that surely would have been the kill right afterwards. So for now, Monster Bomber and Conviction have a little bit of extra safety and a little bit more pressure over on this left-hand side of the map, now knowing that at least one of Mineral's relics are down. Though Mineral does still have the ultimate, one of those big circles to create the massive Venn diagram that we were talking about kind of on the desk and coming right into the initial portion of the game. I mean, Lightning Storm plus the Suns, and if you can lock anybody kind of behind the walls that Delny throws out there, you can essentially guarantee death at that point.
Yeah, realistically, it's just a lot to try and avoid in the middle of a fight. Monster Bomber, look, you've gotten away with this a lot. And your Bacchus, I think you might get away with this still. But no, Vonson's going to try to pull him back.
Maybe not. No beads for him this time around. He will get stuck inside. The Suns slowing him down, and Mineral will be the one to get the kill. But Dame gets picked up by the Cat and thrown right back into the clutches of Valo and Vi. But they have to leave as fast as possible. And so does Slash as he gets drop-kicked back away from the rest of the neighborhood to pick up a nice kill.
Yeah, I go gold here. Good. Okay, they're grouping up for it. I'm like, they force people back. Beads are still down for a couple of members. You know they're low on mana. Either force the fight or try to burn it down. You've got a Lightning Storm.
Lightning Storm is here. The bombs or the Flame Wave could be
No
good.
way!
And it does get stolen away. Reverse card.
You gotta
Gets
get
the Fury
kills.
Slash. Gets a 3-man stun in the backline all by himself. And it's the Bastet who stole that one away with one tick of the Razor Whip. But Vi is eating a massive amount of damage. The detonate is weighted out. The Aegis doesn't do anything. He goes through, but Conviction is able to get one with the help of Valo, and it's Slash all by himself, surrounded by 4. The walls make sure to hold him into his own coffin as Jumpa picks up yet another double kill.
We find ourselves back. So the middle ground for this game has been 1,500 gold in favor of Neighborhood, and that's where we end up. Ultimately, they are a little behind where they were initially into that fight. But a couple of kills at least makes it slightly more manageable, right? That is an absolute punishment, though, for what should have been an easy secure for them. Again, that's the burn. That's the 50-50. You can get it down to virtually no health all on your own, but you do have to find something to secure it. And unfortunately, Valo was there and playing a little bit cleaner, at least a little bit smarter in terms of when the damage got thrown out. If it hadn't been Vi, if it had been like Monster Bomber and Slash, then it would have been even more in favor of reverse card, but that is a really, really good play, specifically I think from Jumpa afterward, to be able to get the kills that are necessary. And not even looking at it, I mean, yeah, that's just missed timing, unfortunately. Valo's not even looking for that. It just happens to be the tick damage. That's unfortunate.
And then Jumpa, we get a nice little first-person POV of his double kill that he gets out, waits out the Aegis, and you know that he had Dame up there calling out when that one goes down. He gets the detonate, gets one kill, and then a nice easy pickup here against Slash. But looking at the build between Jumpa and Slash, aside from this, this new spell focus that gets picked up by the Zeus here in mid, There's only a 1 item difference, and it's a breastplate instead of a divine ruin between Slash and Jump Out here. So wild to see, and Slash will feel the full brunt of just how potent these walls could be. Beads only gets it out for a while, but Vonson finds the chain, Dame finds the basic, and they find the kill. Neighborhood now up 9-6 on the kills.
And again, you got to watch CC immunity whenever it's down. If it's not in their kit, they're going to chase it down. 4 pairs of beads are back up. Vonson's ult is maybe not going to be as helpful this next time around, but a little bit of damage and, of course, forcing a lot of beads. I want to see this team get aggressive, much like they are. Pyromancer, this is going to be an easy call for him. Fire Giant's going to be the next one on the chopping block in my mind, and maybe trying to force a fight isn't the call right at 18.5 minutes. Especially when you have that Lightning Storm. It's so helpful for burning it down, but after what just happened to the Gold Fury, I'd be nervous to start any objective that way. Realistically, you want to win a pretty hefty fight and a good engagement here to really strip away Reverse Guard's potential.
Neighborhood do take down a
Dame?
tier 1. Dame really wants this fight, but he gets by his beads, and that's the most important part of all of it. Intoxicate by Monster Bomber is good to slow down Dame and Vonson, but it's an ultimate out of Vonson. How many is he going to pull back? It's just going to be Vi because the beads are already gone. Lightning Storm in the back by Jumpa, but it's Vonson who gets the kill on the mid laner. Delmy is falling low, and he'll be able to retreat back with the rest of the team. Valo wants to fish for this kill as much as he can, but he just cannot find an opportunity in.
Yeah, Valo too low to try and jump back in and truly fight. It's a one and done, right? You walk in, you get the beads, you get the kill, you stop the Agni from existing for a little bit, and you get to fall back. Is that exactly the play you need to start up a Fire Giant? Maybe not like the big dub that you would like, but it's a 4v5 at this point, so you can at least put some pressure onto Reverse Card and try to control a little bit more of this map and really change their perspective of where they're going to be safe to stand. Again, tier 1 in mid taken down along with the tier 1 in right theoretically opens up a lot more safe spaces for the Neighborhood to walk around on the right-hand side of the jungle and really cause a lot of trouble for Reverse Card. Valo's, one of the ones on the chopping block. Beads are down there. Beads are down for Conviction as well. I think that you should be watching Vonson very carefully with Blink and that ult coming up pretty soon. They're going to be fishing for something.
Well, Vonson is probably very happy that Dame was able to get into the backline and finally get a set of beads. Vonson does miss that second chain, maybe expecting Valo to move just a little bit sooner there. And so he only gets and tags Monster Bomber. But now the Neighborhood are starting up Fire Giant. Dame is off to the left side, but it could just be a bait and see if anybody's going to come through and take that bite. Monster Bomber does walk forward. Chain does go through. Monster Bomber eating about half his health and damage. And the bombs raining through from Vi are starting to show the damage that this Agni has.
Still a minute left on 3 pairs of beats for Reverse Guard. So Vonson still having the blink up, still having the ult, is in a great position to continue holding this. Uses the ult just for Slash, though.
But Slash has his beats. He'll get away. First
Good
bomb,
wall.
second bomb comes down, and the rain fire out of Vi is doing damage, but so is Dame. As Slash finally goes down, the beads, because they were already down, he had no defense. Now Dame can go right to the back line. Drop kick against Vi, but he's all by himself. He jumps over the ultimate of Conviction to pick up a kill while Jumpa finds Valo in the back line, and Dame is single-handedly kicking and screaming against this team, dragging them to the depths of the earth.
Yeah,
and doing everything he can.
That play from Dame is absolutely, I think it's a little confusing, that initial engage, how they handle Slash, but they kill Slash. So at the end of the day, you can dust your hands of that one. It doesn't matter whether or not I like it. It's just going to matter that you got the job done. And then Dame makes it more worthwhile, right? I'm thinking, okay, cool, these beads are about to come up, dude. You just whiffed the Aerial. You only pulled in one. Doesn't matter. He does the drop kick. He finds that control necessary. And, of course, get some really big kills. 4, 3, and 7, not necessarily the most beautiful Slash line, but it really is able to accomplish a lot and create a lot of space here. And it's specifically, I mean, look, we can ignore that. It's literally just zoning out Vi. You get the Aegis, you kick him against the wall to control this right here, and then you had mentioned it, but the leap over the ult.
Gorgeous.
Not even intentional, not planned. You can never convince me any way that that was what he was trying to do there, but it works out really well for him.
He'll tell you every day of the week that it was planned, and so is this Fire Giant. The Neighborhood will finally grab the major, the biggest of the neutral objectives off the map, and extend their kills up now 13-6, 6,000 gold. Finally, a significant gold lead after 10+ minutes of sitting around 1,500 gold separating the teams. Same with experience. Neighborhood are finally getting a nice little lead. but it might be a little too early to celebrate here. Delny eats some damage from Valo and Monster Bomber, but he's got Dame from Newark here to put the hurt right back on. Misses the drop kick, and that should be the out from Valo. Slash wants to keep this fight going. He'll get the root, he'll get the cripple, he'll find the stun, and the bombs from the mid laner are slamming through. Dame does end up going down at the end of the day, and so will Delny. A little overzealous here from the neighborhood.
Yeah, and honestly, great from Reverse Card. You just burned 2 Fire Giants in one go. Mineral is nowhere to be found. The rest of the team is now backing. It should be a tier 2 here.
Not
Maybe
quite.
Not. Yeah, he's
Not
going to have to
teleport.
back away. He doesn't have any help. And with Slash teleporting in, the neighborhood might have just had their entire push killed. I think their power play, I mean, granted, it's still 3 minutes of fun that they could have, but realistically, they don't have a lot on the map they can do safely here. In a 3v5, 20 seconds left, it's going to burn a lot of this FG timer, and Reverse Card are going to be able to take a distinct advantage because of it.
The good news is there was nobody there to steal the Fury away this time, so Oni Fury will go to the neighborhood. They don't get any of the towers just yet. Those will be still standing on standby. And this does give Reverse Card the opportunity to push up this left side. Tier 1 tower does go down, and they'll be able to make quick work of these Oni minions because they're already there. Once we'll start pushing down mid and that right side of the map, we'll get a little bit closer to the tower line, but nothing really to worry about. Power play only for about another 2 minutes on Reverse Card, but that's a perfect momentum reset that Reverse Card needed.
This is actually where I think things are going to be interesting. 45 seconds is the timer on the beads for Conviction. About twice that, just a little under, the beads timers for Valo. And so Vonson and the right grouping is going to be able to pull somebody who is a high priority target. Conviction can still use ult to try and disengage things like that. But no matter what, right, you're going to get something big on the other side that you're peeling away. Mineral still has FG, Vonson still has FG. So you do have 2 people, one who's going to be tanking and sustaining, and one who's going to be able to burn through those towers a little bit better. And that's something to keep your mind on. Plus Jumper, I think we have to talk about Jumper because he's 7-4 on this Zeus and is going to be nuts in these next couple of fights.
Half health, does find the ultimate against Slash, gets the beads out of a Monster Bomber in, and the Suns rain down.
Dame.
Mineral and Delny will do what they can to survive through, but they've separated the team fight and forced everybody from Reverse Card back, even if only for a few moments later. 2 sets of beads, though, taken away by Vonson with that ultimate.
Yeah, and again, with the 20 seconds left, not a long time, but enough that you can still get active and force Valo to feel uncomfortable. Dame has been doing a great job really splitting into the back and causing someone to be uncomfortable. Vi's going to be out of this fight. I think this is tier 2 you have to start backing away from.
He's half health on this mage. All it takes is one initiation, one little call from neighborhood to go in, and it's going to be Delny who goes through. Aegis a little bit too late for Vi. He goes down as the lightning storm drops. Valo does manage to at least pick up the support, and Slash wants to find that last hit on Delny, but he will not be able to do so. And the tier 2 tower dissuading the neighborhood from going any further forward, or even going for this tower instead. Their eyes are set more towards this obelisk right now.
1 for 1, killing the mage still feels better than losing Vonson, although Vonson had an FG buff and admittedly was maybe the most important tank for you to continue any sort of onslaught you might have had. So it's a good call from Reverse Card. They save that tier 2. They do lose a little bit in the process. It's going to be that 100-second cooldown still for those 2 pairs of beads that maybe makes the biggest difference. Fire Giant's going to come back and respawn by the time those are back off cooldown, or before those are back off cooldown. And that should open up a conversation for Vonson and some fun. But I feel like I keep harping on him and I keep talking about it, and so far I haven't had like the one pinnacle Ares moment just yet, right? We've seen a lot of decent chains, admittedly getting a lot of beads burned on the other side, but nothing that has stood out as like the play to make this Ares is worthwhile. Some of the chains have been good, but some of them have missed quite a few. And so it really has been everything on the back end. It's been Dame, it's been Jumpa really, and you have Mineral with a ton of assists that have really set things up. Delny with great walls. It's really the other 4 that have been setting up the neighborhood for as much success. And they're going to need to carry that into this next minute. Fire Giant's got 10 seconds, Pyromancer's right there, and there's already a large grouping from Reverse Card on the right-hand side. You have to be prepared for this.
It's one of those where you feel like you could have slotted in some other support here for Vonson and would have had similar levels of success, because we haven't had those 3-4-man Ares grabs. Whether he pulls any of them or not isn't the most important part. It's making sure to put pressure on 3 or 4 at a time with beads. But it's only been 1 or 2, really at best so far. Vonson really waiting for that pinnacle moment, and his team setting up around Fire Giant. They will grab Pyromancer. to start this slow ascension as we really hit kind of this peak moment towards late game. Another game going past this 27. He'll go in. He'll find 2, but he'll also find 2 sets of beads. But unfortunately for Mineral, he does end up using the Suns right there, even despite the fact nobody got pulled in.
Yeah, that might have been just an early pull on him. Luckily, at the end of the day, Hui Suns, they're really good in a team fight for like the damage over time that they're going to do and some of the extraneous effects. But they're not the end-all be-all, right? Some other ults, like if that was Lightning Storm, I'm crying for the neighborhood because there's nothing they can do in the next engagement. So it's not the end of the world. Mineral's still going to have a lot of good damage out there, has that Deathbringer online, so I expect to see some really good hits from the carry for neighborhood. But they do have to be a lot more conscious about how they're getting aggressive here, knowing that they're going to be missing some key utilities. But 49-second cooldown left on that ult. The beads at 30. I mean, Vonson should be able to get another one of those. Unfortunately, he just got the front lines there. But that's still some pretty big targets to pull in if he's able to do so in about 30 seconds.
Vonson finds chain number 1, finds chain 2, but doesn't get the third. Ultimate out of Delny, doesn't lock anybody in. Instead, he breaks down his own wall. And it's only Slash and Monster Bomber really taking the brunt of the damage here, especially Monster Bomber, who's eaten about a third of it. Vonson goes in, finds the ult on the 2, will pull them both in to the Lightning Storm damage, and Vi and jump up. Both the mid laners pick up one, but Mineral able to finally grab another one, making a 2-for-1 trade. Neighborhood up on top so far.
And I love this. I mean, that's the first ult whiff that we've seen from Delny, but with both frontliners available, Dame is not going to be able to zone. You need someone else to step forward here, but the damage is still on side of the neighborhood. You should have to be careful here.
This is very risky. Vonson is getting low. Vi does get chained, but he dashes out in time. Delny is here to hold them back. Valo and Conviction are now stuck behind the walls inside the Suns, but Vi finds yet another target, even at critically low health. And the neighborhood are just conveyor belting their way into the damage that Vi is throwing out.
Yeah, that made it a lot easier, I think, for Vi. Conviction able to find a lot of good damage in that engagement as well. Still has the beads on top of that. You need to burn some more relics if you're going to be feeling comfortable. Vonson dies much faster than I keep expecting him to. And that is not a comfortable spot to be in. And admittedly, you look at this, his build's not necessarily like super tanky in terms of prots. He does have a lot of health in it and some things that are kosher pretty much with Ares. Maybe not as much as you would like. I'm curious as to what he's going to do to finish that out and maybe try to make himself feel a little stronger. On the other side, though, 2 pairs of beats that are 60 seconds plus. That's going to be a big deal. Aegis down for Conviction. That Fire Giant, it was so close to being in the grasp of the neighborhood. If Delny's able to get good walls in the initial engagement here, that might just make or break what happens for the neighborhood.
Well, this fight for the Fire Giant has gone on for so long that he's now upgraded himself to the Enhanced Fire Giant. And that could be the end-all, be-all.
You know what?
If
Good
enough
for him.
people
I'm
are
glad
alive.
that he spent some time working on himself.
He's been meditating. He's really been working on himself.
A
And
lot
now
of
he's shown up
self-reflection.
and has been able to really build a big name for himself. He's come out bigger and, well, maybe not bigger. He's about the same size, but he's stronger than ever at the very least. Here, 31 minutes in the game. Vi with an alternate timeline on this mid lane Agni. We've seen a couple of moments where alternate timeline has actually come in big throughout this tournament and throughout really alternate timeline's history has kind of been a back and forth. We saw some value this week already. We'll see if Vi can find some value here. Fire Giant is still being held onto by Delny, but that's the call to go in. Monster Bomber loses a lot of his health. He has nowhere to go. The chains have locked him down. Conviction is locked away with Dame, but Dame doesn't get the last kill that he needs. So instead, he'll drop the winds on top of Slash. Valo will jump inside the Winter Smosh. Probably not the place that you want to be, and neither is that. Slash gets yanked back in. That's 3 down.
Honestly, forget the Fire Giant. You could probably back up and just go straight. No, there's 3 towers standing. Go for the Fire Giant. I looked at the map, and that is exactly the call that you want. Yeah, you've got 30 seconds free that you're going to be able to start assaulting some of these towers and burning them down after you pick up this Fire Giant. Then Monster Bomber comes back. Valo Slash will join the fray afterward. But you should be able to get a Phoenix here in this timer. Honestly, taking way longer to burn this Fire Giant than I thought it was going to. Yeah, there we go. Finally.
He's enhanced now. He's a little
They're
stronger.
going to be able to pick it up. Yeah, you're right. He's enhanced. And that is more of a reason to get a Phoenix here. I think you should be able to do it pretty cleanly. And honestly, I'm looking at the cooldowns for Conviction's relics. They aren't looking real good here for someone who wants to try and do a defense. So I think this is a great time to try and kill off the carry for reverse card.
Neither.
For the first time, too.
And neither of the frontliners either. I mean, they're both sitting over 100 seconds on both of their beats. Delny goes in, but he misses the wall just barely.
Good
Again,
dash.
Vi's reaction time on this Agni and just how fast that dash is is really a testament to how potent this god can be. And Vi is putting on a great display for us so far today. We do have Rada Tahuti, hasn't upgraded to the glyph just yet. Not sure if we'll even have the opportunity to see so. A couple of sets of temporal beads on the opposite side of the map here for the neighborhood. Those cooldown reductions, big stun, finds 2, but not much follow-up damage beyond that.
I like where they're positioned. I mean, you've got EFG and you've got minion waves. You can get aggressive here, and Vonson's the one to look at. He could kick things off great. And if Valo had been able to pull someone in, that might have actually completely thwarted the neighborhood. Now, probably fall back. You just killed 2 tier 2s and a Phoenix. You can get a lot of objectives. They stripped a lot of the jungle. There's at least a Primal Fury available, and then a lot of gold to spend. That's going to be in their pockets.
Yeah, Dame will go by himself over towards this right side of the map. He'll grab the Pyromancer. No help necessary here. He can kind of do this one all his own at this stage of the game. And the rest of the team can work towards the the Gold Fury instead. This time Primal Fury goes down. So it's 2 more objectives. Gold still spiraling upward and still very relevant because not everybody has fully maxed out their build. 17,000 gold, 22,000 experience. And we're still feeling that 17,000 gold because there's only one person on the side of the neighborhood who hasn't maxed out their build just yet, that being Vonson, 1 item shy and a couple of upgrades on his relics to do so.
Got it.
The other one, okay, well now he's done. All he's got to do now is just upgrade those beads and blink, and he'll be on the same par as everyone else on his team. When you look across the way, though, still 3 players on reverse card who haven't gotten that last item, and hardly any upgraded relics.
I like where we're standing, though. And that's what's weird. So everything you just highlighted should, in my mind, say that reverse card are at a distinct disadvantage. And they are. That is impossible to gloss over. They really are. 17,000 gold is felt through and through in those items and in those upgrades. But all I can think about right now is the absolute nuts defense they had during last game and how in this position at this point in the game, granted 5 towers are standing on the other side, it's really awkward, but it could win you the game if you could just run down the other side. At this point, it might be more awkward. And with Vi getting the beads burned, that's actually going to be a huge play. Delny has opened up a lot of opportunity on the left-hand side.
1 relic, and that's 1 ultimate. Vying Conviction losing out on some of that safety. And the second Phoenix of the game goes down. It'll be the left side one. Dame by himself against 2, fighting for his life to stay alive. Loses half his health. Conviction will probably lose the rest of it as the Lightning Storm deals the last damage. Jumpa 9-0. Divine on the Zeus. Vi, where are you going? Why did you ever think that you could get away from the might of Vonson? Neighborhood find 2 more kills. The Titan is aggroed. Monster Bomber is doing everything he can to keep his team alive, to keep their tournament chances up here. But the neighborhood wants to close this out. Jumpa ends with a double. Mineral ends with a double. And the neighborhood come up with a double of their own in a 2-0 win.
They stay alive, and that's the big thing for them. I gave Vonson a little bit of trouble there. I mean, there were a couple of times he was definitely not hitting the marks that I wanted on that Ares. Came up big in all of those last engagements. Delny, I think, is an unsung hero. So many walls. I say unsung. I called him out every time they happened. They were beautiful, though, and I think it deserves all of the praise because of what he was able to do for setup. And realistically, you've got to look at these carries, and more not just what they did. Their damage numbers are nuts. All the items they had were perfect for them. But neither of them died on the neighborhood. Both of them having insane KDAs. I think before the end of that game, it was like 6-0-9 and 8-0-10 or something like that for the 2 of them. And so I can only imagine it looks even better as the game finishes. It was just really well played from them. Again, kind of slow and definitely not as clean as they would like. There were a lot of moments where there were fights that happened that definitely had a couple of deaths that unfortunately really set them back. I'm thinking of Dame kind of overextending, diving a little bit too far sometimes, and ultimately good plays happening from reverse card to slow them up. But luckily for them, it didn't stop them completely, and they managed to continue going forward.
Neighborhood will live on in the tournament, but unfortunately for their opposition, that is the end of it all. That's game 2. We're going to take it to the desk to close out our day.
The day of 2-0s comes to a close as Neighborhood grab themselves a win in our final set of the day. In 2-0 fashion, a little bit more back and forth in the early part of this game, but these two teams, you could tell, very neck and neck in the way that they play Smite, but the neighborhood ultimately winning out in some late game team fights. Jumpa goes big on Zeus. Dame some big plays out of the jungle as well. And that is enough to take the set and move on in the lower bracket here of this event. Myth, the neighborhood, we talked about some of the swaps that they had made, Dame and Jumpa swapping roles. It was described as communication-based, things like that. I think we saw some of the fruits of that here in this set.
I appreciate the attempt for you to dissuade me from going and continuing a conversation that we started at the top of this desk. But, Dave,
we
I have
haven't
to harken
started
back.
a conversation.
I have to harken back. Hey, I'm not done talking. We talked about whether or not it was more competitively viable to want to win as opposed to wanting to make your opposition lose. We both agreed to have our own champions here. Mineral was my champion. Yours was from the squad that did not win.
That was Vela.
And therefore, my philosophy reigns supreme.
So you're saying this is a win for you in the sense that winning to beat someone else is more powerful than winning for yourself.
Of course.
But will you ever really win if your mindset is to hurt other people?
Yes.
All right, fair enough. I just think you and I are going to argue about this in circles. Now I'll ask you the real analytical question. Do you think you saw the benefit of the role swap, the communication style, the play style, things like that for this neighborhood team?
Yeah, the squad looked a lot better. The team fighting cleaned up a lot. There was good
This poor
communication. Dude, that is I'm pretty sure the Agni's dead either way. There's no shot Dame's doing that on purpose. If he
No
hops
chance.
on Twitter and he's like, yo, I'm so sick, I'm literally going to blow him up because there's no way.
No, that's like
that
the
was
Sanford
intentional.
soccer, like a wheelie, pull. You know
That's
what I mean?
that's 100% an accident, man. A dope accident, to be sure.
How about this one?
Yeah, this is on purpose.
No, hold on. This one right here. That. Jumping over. Do you
Oh,
think that's
yeah, bro. Yeah.
purpose?
Yeah, I do that all the time.
All right, fair enough. But the point being, Dame had some big plays in this one. But it felt like even in the early game, when there was a lot of back and forth, felt a little more tumultuous for the neighborhood. It was always Jumpa that was alive at the end of these team fights. And it was
In
like
game
the second or third round of Detonate was like winning the fight towards the end.
Yeah, in game 2. Game 1, it was a little bit more so of a struggle on the Zeus. I feel like he was kind of making that adaptation, trying to shift his attention from playing jungle to going towards mid. But in game 2, the adaptations were made, and this Zeus was putting out damage. The positioning was incredibly clean. The draft around him to make sure that this Zeus was able to apply his damage safely was really good as well. And it is hard. There is a legitimate difficulty in shifting from jungle, which is a role that has to get involved, has to get close, has to be one of the initiators essentially for your team,
Oh my God.
to Zeus, who is just going to sit in the back line. It's a big mental shift.
Jumpa had a nuts game on Nemesis the other day, with double-digit
Yeah, he's good.
kills, low-digit deaths, and crazy assists. Now we're going to swap to the mid lane, do it again, 11-0-11. Unless I read that incorrectly, 26,000 damage. When you have 4 players on your team all doing 20-something thousand damage, I mean, for a small brain like me who just like, all I think is like damage, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I just
damage
see
goes crazy.
big damage numbers. Damage is nuts.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Neighborhood had it in spades in this one. Jumpa played a big role in the win here for the neighborhood in game number 2 and in this set in general. And as such, Jumpa standing by with me for the post-game interview. Jumpa, first and foremost.
Oh,
let's
ask
bring
him the
camera
question.
on. All right, fine. I'll start with the same question that we asked the pregame interview. Do you play more to win for yourself, or do you play to beat the other team?
To make them lose.
To make them lose. Do you want to win, or do you want the other people to lose? What is more important to you?
I think the other people lose it.
Oh my God!
Let's go, bro!
It's just better motivation.
All right, fair enough. I'm over. I'll accept that I'm on the wrong end of this. We had some conversations about the role swap. You were jungle yesterday, playing mid today. Did you feel like after game 1 you knocked some of the rust off and you were back to your peak form in mid? You feeling comfortable by the end of this set?
Yeah, it's a massive transition, like
Yeah.
role difference. Game 1, they had like a pretty heavy pressure comp. I was kind of trolling. I was just dying randomly in mid. But then after the first game, we had the team comp with more pressure, so
Right.
it allowed me to play the map more freely as Zeus. They couldn't dive into like an Ares as much because they would get Ares chained and pulled, so it was easier to play the game because of our picks.
Well, we talked to Mineral pre-game, and he had mentioned some of the roles or the role swap having to do with communication, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys already feel a difference in that here in this set and things flowing a little bit more comfortably with the changes?
Yeah, I think Dame's better at reeling in Vine from like not just like running it down.
Yeah.
So,
Fair
that
enough.
helps.
I want to know what the team mindset is, actually, now that you bring that up. Vani just tweeted his picks before the set. Now
lied.
he went off script. He picked the Ares. How how seriously is he taking the pregame peek behind the curtain? Like, are you guys telling him, all right, let's maybe pick something that's off the script, or is he sticking to it as best he can?
Nah, he's sticking to the script. He said he's just going to become the Smite supervillain on Twitter. He picked Ares because Gamma asked him to play Ares. So then he just picked Ares. So
fair enough. He's got to pivot every once in a while, but we'll keep our eyes out for his tweet. Congrats on the win. Moving on the lower bracket. Looking forward to what you can do in the future.
Thank you.
Big set from Jumpa, and a great way to end out this day and end out this set 11-0 on the Zeus to end this one, Miff. I can't believe it. I am 0 for 3. I think everyone's playing.
No, you got one guy.
No, that's right. Velo is on my side,
but he's 0 for 2.
Right, but he didn't win the set, unfortunately. I hate that laugh. It's that one, and it's because he knows he's right, and it's the absolute worst. Miff, we had a fantastic, fun day of Smite action here today in the Season 9 SPL play-ins. A bunch of 2-0s though. And earlier on, I think we might have expected that in some of the earlier sets. The Oni homies, the overwhelming favorites to take one of the 2 SPL spots up for grabs. And then the Winter Dogs, the second seed as well, looked like a very clean and consistent team. Just F6 and the neighborhood also winning in 2-0 fashion. I'm curious, though, your thoughts, Miff. We'll take a look at the bracket in just a moment. Between the Oni homies and the Winter Dogs, though, 2 of the top teams in this event, who do you feel like played the more clean, I don't want to say deserving of an SPL spot, but who do you think played a more clean game between our top 2 seeds?
I would argue that they both took their matches at a similar style, that they were just going to play the macro better than their opposition. They may have fallen behind a little bit in kills, but they were always establishing a gold lead. So if we're going to talk about cleanliness and which one did better, holistically, I would say the Oni homies outperformed them because they always had the larger gold lead with less kills. You know what I mean? The style that they were approaching, they outperformed. Well, tomorrow we're going to get a lot of fun games. We will have 2 knockout matches, Samsara versus Just F6, nobody's favorite in the neighborhood. You see them down there towards the bottom. And then Oni homies and Fun Havers and the Winter Dogs will be back in action on the top side of that bracket. We've got one more day with 4 best of 3s, 2 more knockout matches to start the day. We are starting off the day tomorrow with the knockout matches. That is 11 a.m. Eastern time right here on the Smite Game Twitch channel. And then the upper bracket resumes at the end of the day. On behalf of myself, Mifflin, everyone back in production, thanks for watching, and we will see you tomorrow.